can see the world through open eyes and savor all the time before it flies. And every time you wake up, there's a new day that's calling out your name. Come join the game. Well, that's life. Take what comes along the way. That's love. Let it grow stronger every day. There's joy as the days go passing by. There's hope, a better life for you and I. We'll take our dreams and fly. Together we can try. That's life. Well, some things in this world were meant to be, like living life in peace and harmony. So follow where the road will lead you. Hand in hand we'll make our dreams come true. Enjoy the view. Oh, that's life. Take what comes along the way. That's love. Let it grow stronger every day. There's joy as the days go passing by. There's hope, a better life for you and I. We'll take our dreams and fly. Together we can try. That's life. Together we can try. Oh, that's life. We'll take what comes along the way. That's love. Let it grow stronger every day. There's joy, and as the days go passing by. There's hope, a better life for you and I. We'll take our dreams and fly. Together we can try. That's a life. Oh, that's a life. Everywhere I go, I feel so alive. Yeah, I'm happy head to toe. I'm in overdrive. Well, alright. Clear those clouds away. I can feel the sun. Yeah. Let the music play. Now we've just begun. I'm ready, 'cause these are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days of our lives, of our lives. There's magic in the air, and it feels so right. Yeah. So follow if you dare, and you'll see the light shine so bright. 'Cause these are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days of our lives, of our lives. Yeah. Oh, can you feel dreaming wide awake. This is the life I make. I don't need a holiday to make me feel this way. Listen up, take a chance, you can sing, you can dance, you can live like there's no tomorrow. Give it time and you'll find there's a groove, there's a rhyme, move along and the rest will follow. I want you to know, oh yeah, we shine like stars. Oh yeah, we shine like stars, like what are we waiting for? It seems we still want more. No one can take away the dreams we have today. Yeah, you can go with the flow, don't you see, don't you know there's a light, let it burn inside you. You can shout, let it out, not a care, not a doubt, this is it, let the moment guide you. I want you to know, oh yeah, we shine like stars. Oh yeah, we shine like stars, like we shine like stars. We shine like stars. We shine like stars. We shine. But here we go now. We shine like stars. We shine like stars. We shine like stars. We shine. Oh yeah, we shine like stars. Oh yeah, we shine like stars, like
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of January 6, 2022 to order. Sorry to bust up good conversation. Roll call, please, Ms. Neal.
Ms. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Parker.
Here.
Ms. Reed.
Here.
Ms. Gooley.
Here.
Ms. Varda.
Great. I'd like to begin by thanking our live simultaneous Spanish interpreters for joining us tonight. Details to participate are on our website, on board docs, and on the agenda for this evening. And as always, we are live streaming our meeting. I'd like to open just by expressing condolences and a whole boatload of positive wishes for everyone that was impacted by the fires recently in Boulder County. We had several members of the Jeffco community who were directly impacted by that tragedy, along with hundreds and hundreds of families in Boulder County. And while we think about them, if you are also moved to want to do something in service to those individuals, we will most likely by the end of this week have a link on our webpage, on our district homepage, that will link to numerous opportunities to support neighbors, colleagues, friends who are recovering from those fires in Boulder County. So if you want some more information, check out the district's website, and we'll have resources there if you feel so inclined to get involved. I also want to thank district staff who I saw, who immediately leaned in when they were asked that day, the day after, to help provide support, facilities, facilitation to communities who are trying to figure out what to do next after they had lost everything. So thanks to those different district staff. I'd like to announce a change in time just to make sure everyone is up to date with the latest and greatest for our Wednesday study sessions. So we're going to begin that time change next Wednesday, so that's January 12th, and we'll begin our study session at 3 p.m. here in the boardroom, as always. Our vast viewing audience, community members can check out our meetings whenever it's convenient for you through live stream recordings from here in the boardroom. And for the next few weeks in January, due to the prevalence of the COVID Omicron variant, we're encouraging our audience members to take advantage of that technology if you don't need to be in the room to be recognized or awarded for something or to come speak with us. You can always link to meetings at the bottom of the Jeffco Public Schools homepage. As many of you may have noticed, Superintendent Tracy Dorland is not seated with us tonight. I want to welcome Chief of Schools Elementary, Renee Nicothodis, to the table. Thanks for joining us in Superintendent Dorland's absence, and wish Superintendent Dorland a quick recovery, her and her family, from her bout with COVID and illness this week. And lastly, just to a point of recognition that 1 year ago today, we sort of collectively experienced a significant challenge to our democracy through the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Before we have the honor and privilege of listening to our national anthem in a moment, I'd like to articulate just the critical importance of this country's public school systems in fostering the critical thinking, the voice, the agency, and the opportunity for the leaders of the future that we have here in Jefferson County and the decision makers who we're growing and fostering with educational experiences. As my uncle always says, democracy is not a spectator sport. So I have the honor of welcoming, and please join me in welcoming, Britta Krakovich from Devlin, who is going to sing us the national anthem tonight. She has also been asked to perform the national anthem at the National Western Stock Show, and we feel very privileged to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually graduated Chatfield in 2019, so.
Never
Just want to
mind.
say that just to make
Sorry,
sure.
I just am trying to make you younger every day. Sorry.
You are all good. All right. Yeah. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets raked the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much. Board members, is there a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda?
I move that the Board of Education approves the agenda for the regular business meeting of January 6th, 2022, as revised with removal of the study session with JCAA, item 1.10 or 01, consent agenda 6, item 6.08, contract award, consulting services, North Area Transportation Center, site development and operations building project, the movement of the executive session from item 10.01 to 1.03, and renumbering agenda items as necessary.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Madam President, I had asked for 6.09 and 6.10 to also be removed from the consent agenda, please.
Other discussion? So can we have the motion read back to us with the inclusion? No, we need to, I can't read the,
Yes, I can read the motion back.
thank you.
It does not include the numbers that Ms. Miller is requesting.
So do we need to vote on that as a separate item before we move forward? Can we remove them from the agenda and renumber accordingly?
So if the motion is to amend the motion, then you would take that last motion that Ms. Miller proposed. And if there's a second, have a vote on it.
Okay,
Well, let me just clarify then. At some point, then either when we get to consent, then I can remove it at that time.
You're
Is that
just pulling it from consent to action?
correct?
Oh, okay. Then that comes later.
Okay, thank you.
any other discussion? Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for the regular business meeting of January 6, 2022 as revised. Roll call, please.
Ms. Miller,
Yes?
Ms. Parker,
Yes?
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Cooley,
Yes.
Ms. Varda.
Yes.
All right, next we welcome those we've invited for honors and recognitions, which I am going to assume is several of you in the audience. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. It is with great excitement that we talk about the junior senior high school marching band at D'Evelyn. I invite all the members of D'Evelyn Junior Senior Marching Band, please, that are here to come to the front of the boardroom to be celebrated. We missed you last month, so we're glad you are here today. The Colorado Bandmasters Association canceled the fall 2020 competitive season due to COVID-19. However, D'Evelyn's marching band didn't miss a beat as it returned to competition last fall. Led by marching band director Becky Paschke, the Jaguars won the program's 9th marching band state title on November 1st, 2021 at the Thunderbolt Stadium on the campus of Colorado State University, Pueblo. D'Evelyn won the Class 3A title with a score of 82.850. Let's look at a clip of this talented team's performance. Drew?
Please welcome the D'Evelyn High School marching. First place in Class 3A, D'Evelyn Junior Senior High School.
That's just great. In addition, the Jaguars took first place at 3A at the Jeffco Marching Festival, Legacy Marching Festival Bands of America, West Texas Regional 4A, 3A, 2A Metro Regionals, Arapahoe Marching Festival, along with the State Festival. Congratulations on all of these accomplishments. Please join me in a round of applause for the passionate performers of the Evelyn Junior Senior High School's marching band.
Good job. Well done.
So I have the honor of recognizing and celebrating the recipient of the National Trade and Industrial Education Teacher of the Year, Alex Atkinson, from Green Mountain High School. This award is presented in recognition of the highest meritorious contribution to the improvement, promotion, and development and process of career and technical education in Colorado. During the first 7 years of his career, Alex's crowning achievement has been the development of the Amped on Algebra curriculum. Amped on Algebra teaches students math skills they can use in everyday life. Beyond his leadership of the Amped on Algebra program, Alex co-leads the Geometry and Construction program, heads up the school-based Operations Management course, also known as GM Gear and Printing, sponsors their CTSO chapter, Skills USA, and takes on many side jobs helping fellow staff with a variety of projects, as many trade and industry teachers are tasked with it within schools across the country. In addition, Alex is also enrolled as a full-time student working on his master's degree in real estate, finance, and construction management from the Daniels College of Business at the University of Denver. He plans to utilize his advanced degree to offer concurrent enrollment classes upon completion. During the summer months, he leads multiple professional development trainings across the country for teachers wanting to adopt and implement the Amped on Algebra program into their schools. To date, Alex has helped over 250 schools start and sustain this program, making his impact on the profession felt from coast to coast. Alex's commitment to career and technical education, ensuring Jeffco students are positioned for career success, is truly admirable. Please join me in congratulating him on this impressive achievement and his continued work in this field. Yay!
It's your portrait.
Yeah, exactly.
What do I do now?
Next, I'm pleased to recognize the 2021 Class 4A State Football Champions, Chatfield Senior High School. Will Chatfield head coach Fred McGatlin please come up? Chatfield captured the 4A title championship on December 4th, 2021 at Empower Field at Mile High with a dramatic 41-34 victory over Erie. Sophomore quarterback Jake Jones tossed a 32-yard touchdown pass to sophomore Drew Rollman with 11 seconds remaining in the game to give Chatfield the victory. Let's watch a quick clip of this memorable last-minute touchdown for the win.
Let's do
Chatfield senior Jake Marshall was named player of the game in what was the highest attended 4A state championship game ever at Mile High. The senior running back had 27 carries for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jake was also named the 4A player of the year by the Colorado High School Activities Association. Congrats, Jake. The Chargers scored come-from-behind playoff victories against Dakota Ridge High School, Pine Creek High School, and Erie High School to claim the school's first state football championship in 20 years. What an accomplishment. What a never-give-up example for everybody in this hardworking team of players and coaches. Please join me in congratulating the 2021 Class 4A state football champions, the Chatfield Chargers.
Nice work, Gemma. Gentlemen. Okay. This is when bad miscommunication. Yeah, nice work, man. All right, we're gonna now, as folks are trickling out, we're gonna move into public comment part 1, which is for comments related to business items on this evening's agenda. This year, sign up for public comment occurs online, Sunday 7 a.m. through Wednesday 5:30 p.m. prior to the Thursday regular board meeting, and the link is available on the homepage under board updates, under public comment agenda items. The guidelines for addressing the Board of Education ensure that comments are shared in a way that the board can hear them, and will be followed by introduction of our speakers. Please know that students often attend or view our meetings. Therefore, speakers' remarks should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. In the event it is necessary, the board may interrupt, warn, or close off a participant's statement if it's unrelated to the business of the school district or if it's inappropriate for K-12 students. If you have a need to speak on topics not on tonight's agenda, you're welcome to submit your comments in writing to the board, or you may speak to Ms. Neal about addressing the board during the second public comment period at the end of our meeting. With that, individuals will have 3 minutes to address the board, and groups have 10 minutes. So we will start with our in-person speakers, and the first one is Gina Siemens. Hey, Gina. And you may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. I have to hold it up here because I'm old. Good evening. My name is Gina Siemens from Arvada, and I've been a Jefferson County taxpayer and voter for 30 years, and I'm going to speak regarding agenda item 7.01, the COVID update. This month's update provides 19 slides of various data and info, but it does not report the cost of district staff hours used to manage this singular public health issue. This is a school district, not a public health department. If Jefferson County Public Health desires to focus on COVID management, then it should be done with their staff and their budget. Why is our school district taking time and money away from educating students to do the work of a completely different taxpayer-funded government entity, particularly in light of severe staff shortages? Tonight's meeting alone documents 91 staff departures and only 16 hirings. I respectfully request that tonight's COVID update be the last update for our district. I also request that you board members notify Jefferson County Public Health that no more school district staff or financial resources will be used to police masking, host vaccine clinics, manage quarantines, provide testing, or create more PowerPoint presentations. COVID is now endemic. It's here to stay, like many other viruses and infections, and it's become a distraction from the goal of becoming the top performing school district in the state and in the nation. Based on the poor test scores that were recently reported in the Arvada Press, this goal is going to require all available resources. And it's not just me saying this. While Jefferson County's population grew 9% from 2010 to 2020, student enrollment has decreased 9% since 2012. Too many parents are not convinced the district can properly educate their kids. And during the same time, the district's non-teaching staff increased 6%, average salaries increased 20%, and the cost per pupil increased more than 30%. Our district's best graduation rate was 85.3% in 2018, which is below the national average that year of 88%. In order to unleash great potential, this school board must untether the district from everything that does not improve student educational achievement. We do not need our school district to be an adjunct public health agency. We need the Board of Education, you, that has the courage to end staff time and taxpayer money spent on things that do not support academic success, that comes only from helping teachers teach and helping students learn. I understand it's difficult to steer this massive $739 million behemoth, but as elected board members, you accepted the responsibility to do the hard work. And this community is ready to support a renewed primary focus on student educational achievement that prepares the next generation. We do not need Jefferson County Public Schools to take on anything other than educating students. I join other voters and taxpayers in extending to each board member access to the chairs that you're sitting in tonight. In return, you have a civic obligation to listen to and represent voices like mine. And I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siemens. Next, we have Levi Randolph and friends. Mr. Randolph, if you don't mind introducing the folks that are in your group, just so that we have it as part of the public record, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
I think so.
And you'll have 10 minutes as a group.
Hi, I'm Levi Randolph. I'm a sophomore at Devon High School. I came tonight to give a voice to the students of Jefferson County. I've been asking for just a few of your time to help you understand our perspective as students, our frustrations, our uncertainties, and the anxiety and sadness we feel as a result of the pandemic. I hope that you take this perspective not as a challenge to you or your authority, but as a recognition of the loss that your students have gone through. And as you, board members, make this policy, think of us. I also want to publicly recognize my awesome band director, Becky Paschke, who came up here, but who kept us playing through all these troubling times. March 2020, 2 days before the world shut down, I got COVID, forcing me into 2 weeks of quarantine followed by 18 months of isolation from my family and friends. I lost my entire freshman year of high school, which was not as bad as my sister, who lost her entire senior year. Our community was plagued with fear, uncertainty, division, and anger. In an effort to communicate unity with my community and to protect my grandparents, I received both vaccines against COVID with the promise of no more quarantines and the return to normalcy. The virus had other plans. On December 25th, 2021, I tested positive for COVID once again and left my grandparents' house just as I had arrived, to spend the rest of my break once again in isolation with contradictory opinions about whether I was dangerous to those around me and if a mask would protect them against me. OST, Omicron Standard Time, was written in my pain and isolation, and my cry to give back my time and my life. I'll be singing a song. every day, the same old sound. Wish that I could run from the here and now. Let me go, stuck inside, running from this parasite. And now my time is spent trying to change what I am. I just wanted something to remember these days. All these people running, desperate to save face. Why do I keep crying? Why is everybody lying? I just need a break. I just need time. Give back my life. They said 10 days. And everything will be the same. Stop closing doors. I can't take much more. I want my life to be what it was before. I feel high, I feel low, running round the same old show. Every day I wait for a chance to celebrate. When my friends, when my mates, and one day it feels too late. And the break I wanted gets hit right back in my face. I just wanted something to remember these days. All these people yelling, desperate to save face. Why do I keep crying? Why is everybody lying? I just need to escape. I just need time. Give back my life. They said 10 days. And everything will be the same. Stop closing doors. I can't take much more. I want my life to be what it was before. Hold on to your loved ones, 'cause they'll be there when it's your turn. Just don't be scared. The ones that love you, hold on. Danger's there. Despite the fear, just let me join in the fun. End is near. I just need time. Give back my life. They said 10 days. And everything will be the same. Stop closing doors. I can't take much more. I want my life to be what it was before. I just need time. Give back my life. They said 10 days. And everything will be the same. Stop closing doors. I can't take much more. I want my life to be what it was before. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Levi. Do you have you have some time left? Are you all good?
Thank you to the Board of Thank you to the Board of Education and to the Superintendent Dorland for all your many hours of dedicated service to our community.
Thanks so much, Levi. Mr. Randolph. We'll move now to our public commenters who are online, and we first have Jill Yordy. We should be coming on in a sec. Miss Yordy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. We can hear you. We can't see you, but you can begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks. My internet's not great tonight, so I have to keep my video off. I apologize.
It's okay.
Dear members of the board, my name is Jill Yordy, and I'm a parent of the Jeffco School's third grader. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments tonight on the recently revised COVID-19 isolation and quarantine policies as we head into the second semester. Anecdotally, today in my daughter's class of 22 students, 9 were absent as well as her teacher. While I don't know how many of these absences are due to COVID exposures or confirmed cases, it is certainly not normal and has me concerned. In my view, the administration continues to make decisions on COVID-19 policy that are not well thought out. Shortening the isolation period for individuals who have tested positive for COVID-19 from 10 days to 5 days is not acceptable in school environments because a critical component of new CDC and CDPHE guidelines cannot be followed. The CDC advises that individuals must continue to wear a good-fitting mask around others for at least 5 additional days. This is impossible to enforce in school settings because the school day includes communal meal times where masks are not worn indoors. During the winter months, breakfast and lunch served at schools aren't eaten outside. There is not adequate space for maskless social distancing inside classrooms or cafeterias during meal times for COVID-positive individuals. Now is not the time to reduce measures meant to keep our school communities safe. This policy revision puts our students, their families, and district staff at higher risk for contracting COVID-19, and we should not be treating this virus as endemic when there are still very real risks that our healthcare systems will be overwhelmed as the case counts continue to rise. Jefferson County is experiencing unprecedented increases in cases, with 1,013.2 cases per 100,000 in the last 7 days, as reported by JCPH earlier today, with a 7-day average test positivity rate of 24.8%. We clearly do not have a good understanding of current community spread. For reference, the CDC classifies anything over 100 cases per 100,000 population to be high transmission. Percent positivity rates over 5% mean we don't have enough testing to have an accurate grasp on community spread. We know from the last 2 years that hospitalizations and deaths lag 2 to 3 weeks behind case identification. Even though preliminary studies suggest Omicron may be less severe than previous variants, soaring case rates, if left unchecked, will result in more people getting severely sick, being hospitalized, and dying. And that's basic math. I'd also like to talk about the real-world impacts of the additional risk this policy change places on our community. Even one preventable death in our school district community due to COVID-19 is one too many. To put this in a little context, nationally, more than 160,000 children have lost a primary caregiver to COVID-19 as of last month. Loss of a primary caregiver is a recognized adverse childhood experience that results in a statistically significant increase in the likelihood of that child experiencing later life adverse outcomes on a variety of physical and mental health conditions such as heart disease, suicide, and substance abuse. Thank you for allowing me time to comment tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Yorday. Next up we have, and I'm not sure if it's first name or last name, Wolfram? Carolyn Wolfram. Hi, Ms. Wolfram, can you hear us? Ms. Wolfram, can you hear us from the boardroom?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Yeah, we can't see you, but we can hear you, so you're welcome to begin whenever you're ready. Oh, never mind. I can see you. Oh, I think you're muted now. Sorry.
Yes. Can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
No, I think it's in the dictionary now. We're not allowed to say, can you hear me now? I think. But yes, we can, and you are welcome to begin.
Okay. Okay. I hope you can hear me. I just turned off the board meeting to be certain that everybody can hear okay. Good evening. My name is Carolyn Wolfram, and I live in Lakewood. I have 2 kids in Jeffco schools, and I'm an itinerant teacher of the deaf. I first want to thank the board and Ms. Dorland for your leadership and tonight for listening. I finished this break with mixed emotions. On one hand, I was ready to go. I'm a lucky person who likes being at home and likes being at work. On the other hand, I've not slept at all this week thinking about what life is going to be like in the schools over the next month or two. I'm worried personally about it going into a number of schools as an itinerant and being exposed. I'm worried for my middle school daughter who only received her booster today. She's around a lot of kids who are not up to date. I'm worried for my own students, some of whom are on oxygen, and I know of a few staying home to protect themselves. I have memories of a principal at my daughter's school lamenting the fact that she has to keep herself and others safe before she can do the rest of her job. On that note, as a teacher, I need to be able to go to work and feel safe for myself, my own children, and the students I care for. I'm not sure I can do that right now, and I hate this feeling. I tell you this because I want to be sure that educators' voices are heard by this board when making decisions on how to move forward with COVID. Having my own kids on remote at home was undesirable. However, I knew they were safe, and that peace of mind meant the world. I'm asking you to err on the side of safety in your decisions regarding when to close down buildings and/or the district. I'm asking for clear guidance with science-based criteria that should be met in order to keep buildings open. I'm also asking you to consider how manageable it is for staff to keep a building open. I promise as a teacher that I will knock myself out to make sure that any learning that might occur virtually and or in person will continue to utilize every minute afforded to me to give my students the most optimal educational experience possible. It's my pledge to you, but more importantly, it's my pledge to my students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolfram. And with that, I believe we're finished with part one for public comment, and we'll move into leadership reports and reports from board members. So Ms. Nikothodis, as the superintendent is not with us this evening, is there anything you would like to share before we move on to board reports?
Yeah, there are a couple of things I want to talk about just from this week, but I want to begin by saying I'm happy to be here with you tonight in Superintendent Dorland's absence, and she does send her regrets that she can't join us and is recovering well. So we hope to have her back Monday. A couple of things just from this week. Today, as you know, we had our first 2-hour delay of the year. We've not had that, and it went very smoothly as far as we can tell, and the staff that we talked to are very appreciative of having this extra time to get to work safely. So just wanted to convey our appreciation just for having that tool in our toolbox when we need it, as it came in really handy today. I also want to recognize our facilities teams for how quickly they cleared our school parking lots and made school buildings accessible very early on a really cold morning. So they did a great job, as they always do. Then the other update I wanted to provide you is I know there have been concerns about returning to school right now with the increase in rates and COVID counts in our county. And we've been closely monitoring staff and student absences for the past 2 days. So I just wanted you to know that. We are seeing an increase in staff and student absences, but our building staff are doing everything they can to keep our schools open for in-person learning. And many of our central departments are also chipping in with our emergency guest teacher list that we've provided from central department employees. They're going out to our schools to also assist right now when we've got so many folks out of buildings. So I want to thank them as well and recognize them for putting aside their regular work to support our schools. It's definitely not easy right now due to the absences. We'll continue to monitor this, and we're also working on specific guidance and things that we need to consider when schools do reach that operational capacity limit and feel they cannot continue to operate a building in person. So we should have something at the beginning of next week that we can use as guidance to make some of those decisions if we do need to shift to a remote learning temporarily. Okay, that's all I have for you this evening.
Thanks so much, Mr. Nikothodis. So now we will move on to our own board reports and comments on our activities and issues. So we have about 10 minutes collectively allocated for this sharing together. Is there anyone that would like to begin? See how I didn't put anyone on the spot? I'm leaving it open. Thank you, Ms. Varda.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I had mentioned last time that I had done a suicide prevention training with Support Jeffco Kids, and they've asked me if I would co-host a date where we could invite others. And we're going to do that on January 20th and posting that link on our social media sites. And I would just invite any parents or teachers or anyone involved with the district or not to attend that training or another training like that. I still think about that training a lot, and the points that were made during it, I'm still actually putting into practice some of my thinking and work, especially with some middle schoolers I know. And then I just wanted to mention that I've done a couple of school visits, and that's been really enlightening. I'm learning and getting to be there in person with some of the staff and teachers and administrators has been really great, and seeing some of the new construction has been fun. And to kind of ooh and ah over. I'm just really impressed, and I look forward to more of those visits. And just a thank you to the cabinet for allowing some of us to come and speak with you on one-on-ones and really learn more about what you're doing. I think it's going to really help build capacity for myself as a board member to think about the things we're up to and how to make good decisions. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Miller, would you like to go next?
Sure. I had the opportunity to visit South Lakewood Elementary School, which was a highlight for me since we have a new principal there. And it was a very positive experience walking through with Superintendent Dorland and all of the children over there, kind of giving the I love you sign and high fives to each other and the principal. It's just a very changed space this year, and I'm really excited for that community. And I also had the opportunity to visit Green Gables as well and really look at the EL work that's being done over there and the writing that is being experienced by those children. It was just, the walls were full of wonderful writing and great thoughts and ideas. And it was just a very uplifting day. It fills your bucket. And then I think Mary and Stephanie and I all had the pleasure of going back to Lakewood to do the To Kill a Mockingbird. There is a pro-con. Do we keep To Kill a Mockingbird, and do we let To Kill a Mockingbird go? And I was very impressed with the quality of work that was done on both, hey, let it go, we have other options, or no, we really want to keep it. And so it was a very dynamic experience from what we thought it might be when we first went there. I think it was October, to the work that was done by the students in December. So a shout out to Lakewood and the students, and they did a great job in 9th grade. We get the yes, we want to keep it, and no, we need to let it go. So. And Happy New Year to everybody.
And Happy New Year. Thanks, Ms. Miller. And Ms. Parker?
Yes, I'd like to add on to what Ms. Miller just said. It was fascinating to go to Lakewood High School and see the kids there. Not only the styles of presentation, but we had a chance to talk afterwards just about life in general. Of course, COVID is a big deal there. But I really got excited finding out from them who their favorite teachers are and why. And it was clear in the presentations that the kids really wanted to do well. They wanted to honor the education they were getting and the work of their teachers. And I thought it was fascinating, and I look forward to many more visits.
Thanks, Ms. Parker. Ms. Reed?
I had the opportunity in December to meet with the Green Mountain Community Connections, and I know this is not just happening in the Green Mountain community, but I'm really moved at how much the kids really care about each other, not just in their own schools, but in the schools in their communities. And so a number of the elementary schools in the Green Mountain area have students contributing gifts to students in other schools who maybe have families that are struggling and are not able to provide as many things at Christmas time and for holidays that other groups or that other families may have. And the excitement of kids at holiday shops and being able to provide that opportunity to students to allow them to cultivate their own sense of generosity toward people they don't know and toward their families and their friends. And so I am really pleased at the, as I said, at the culture of generosity that is fostered there. And then, we had a break, so I didn't get a chance to start visiting schools yet. But next week, I'm going to be visiting Ralston Elementary School and Dunstan Middle School. So very much looking forward to that, and then really launching into getting to all of my schools.
Great. Thanks so much, Ms. Reed. So I'll wrap it up by saying Happy New Year to everyone. I hope that you all were able to everyone was able to take a break and lots of deep breaths and find some way to feel restored. I know we did it with a lot of binge watching of movies and sweatpants. So that was a holiday treat. I am excited to be able to serve moving forward on the Colorado Association of School Boards Board of Directors, and wanted to just bring awareness to their February winter legislative session that happens, in February because it is coming up. And I can share dates with you all. We'll have next month our district lobbyist Ed Bowditch coming to talk to us about what we can pay attention to this legislative season. And this CASB winter legislative session is another way to help us as a Jeffco body of elected officials to be able to connect with legislators, to be able to make sure that we're aware of what's happening down at the Capitol and how we can make sure that the Jeffco voice and perspective is shared broadly, because it's an important voice. And as always, school visits were awesome, and I look forward to continuing to do those as we move forward. So with that, we are going to move on to the consent agenda, and after that, we can see if we want to take a little brief break. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that the items on the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Discussion.
This is my time to ask for the removal, please, of 6.09 and 6.10 from the consent agenda, please.
Is there a second for Ms. Miller's motion? Right? I always just look like a peacock like this, just to make sure I'm doing everything right.
Something off the consent agenda?
Right.
Yeah, you're not making a motion.
No, I just am asking to have it pulled off, right?
Perfect. So then it has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the revision of the removal of 6.09 and 6.1 for discussion. Roll call, please.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cooley?
Yes.
Ms. Varda?
Yes. Okay. Board, I'm wondering if you all would like to take a break at this moment, or if you want to keep rolling.
I'm good to keep going.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okie dokie. Didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So we will move on to our first ends discussion, which is a COVID update for second semester return. We have allocated 30 minutes for this presentation. And so if we could have our wonderful colleagues come up and introduce themselves. Ms. Yoder, perhaps you can do introductions. Our prior update was last month on December 9th. We allocated 30 minutes. I already said that. Ms. Nicothodis, is there anything else you'd like to add before we begin our presentation?
No, I just want to thank our team that's been working pretty tirelessly around the clock and through the winter vacation to keep us up to date on the changes that have been coming out recently. So thank you all, and for the presentation you put together for the board this evening.
Good evening, and it's nice to be here. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and let my colleagues introduce themselves, but I'm Pam Yoder, and I am the COVID Response Team Project Manager.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jill Ibeck, Chief Information Officer.
And Patrick Simpson, Executive Director of Athletics and Activities.
So good evening. A lot has happened since we've last met, and we've been working to keep up with that. So this will represent the most current of our information, as well as our collaborations with CDPHE and JCPH. So current health order updates. This has been changing in real time, but CDC has made a move for the isolation and quarantine adjustments to be now a minimum of 5 days. And that has guidelines considering vaccination status of both students and adults that are testing positive or exposed. So I have shared links that can be available for the new guidance for schools. And CDPHE has put out an updated guidance which really is addressing the new pieces around isolation. And then CDC has not continued coming forward with anything yet. So our best hope is that we are aligning continually with CDC, CDPHE, JCPH. And I am happy to report that I feel that we are now entering a very collaborative time with our health partners, and they are eager to continue that with us. Really, the only mandates at this point are masks and the quarantines. There are guidelines around both of those, but everything else is moving to a recommendation on all the health department sides. We will continue to work closely with our health partners. I'm meeting with them at the moment almost daily to keep us updated and to make sure that we have the latest news and that we have in-depth discussions with the epidemiology team on what the impacts are, their thinking, and why we're making the changes we are. So we have a deep understanding and rationale of this move. This data was provided by JCPH as of the 4th. And as we are coming back, I just want you to know that our dashboard is not totally current. We're working with some new systems and how we're going to do that going forward. And we've just started reporting cases again now that we're back in school. So there is a surge for the Omicron variant. The most recent and the one that really is highlighted is that 953.5 per 100,000 persons is the case count over the last 7 days from this report. This also shares the overall Jeffco vaccination rates, not just our school, but the vaccination. And from the epidemiology team, this is not high enough coverage to prevent this widespread transmission. The Omicron variant in schools is prevalent, and we need to use other mitigation strategies. So we have provided some mitigation strategies to layer for our schools to take a look at and decide within their buildings how they can continue to add those. We know from all the health teams that masks, testing, and distancing that can happen is the best layered strategy. And then schools will look at what can really be played out. Elementary schools are different than secondary. And so we continue to have those discussions, continue to work with principals and with our RNs around advisement in terms of how they can make some of these work. And please let me know if you have any questions. So we looked at this a month ago on our impact on schools. And we did take this to our collaborative monitoring committee. We did discuss that with the board the last meeting that we had. What we've added in our operations of schools is to recommend and communicate the air filter flow information, not to just our schools, but communities. So I'm asked quite a bit about what that is. I know that Tim Reed has posted that and has presentations that have gone out. And the CMC really wants to work on making sure that's been widely communicated for understanding. And then we are working together to determine the impact of absences of our schools on the operations side. I've talked about the mitigation strategies, and you do have a link here to the chart we share with our schools. And the impact on our students and academics continues to be the concern coming in from families. And so the conversations kept coming back to what are we communicating with our schools? What are the expectations that our schools are setting forward for staff to make sure all of our students have access to quality instruction and support while they're out on quarantine. And then the continued impact on staff, we know there is an impact as we look at the numbers for the last few days. So we continue to look at that, monitoring attendance and the needs for subs. And then going forward, we're starting to talk about what is that point that we look at, that there's a severe enough impact on a school that we need to make a decision how the school is going to operate.
Okay, thank you, Pam. One thing to start off with that you may notice from our previous presentations that is missing is some of the data slides. Please note that we did move those data slides to the appendix, and they are available, but we aren't going to be going through those tonight based on what we heard from you all on wanting to focus more on some of our mitigation strategies, testing, and clinics updates. With regard to our testing and clinics updates, one thing that we like to remind the community is that we do support and encourage testing regardless of vaccination status. And this type of testing, what we call surveillance testing, is available at our mobile health hubs for all asymptomatic staff and students. With regard to other updates that we have for some of the sub-programming, we are going to go and provide an update on the Test to Stay pilot program at EMS, which is in place, as you know, from before break until mid-February. We are then going to provide a current testing update on high school athletics and activities, and actually Patrick is going to do that. As you already heard, there are some changes there to how we are approaching that based upon recently expired public health orders. We will then move into compliance with a new CDPHE health order that we found out also before the break with regard to events of limits over 500 people. And last but not least, Pam is going to provide an update on vaccination clinics. The two main points that Pam will dive into is what you see here, adding 8 additional sites through the end of January with JCPH. And we are starting to begin the conversation with Walmart Associates regarding additional sites. Okay, Pam? So as mentioned, our Test to Stay pilot program is implemented at Evergreen Middle School through the middle of February. One of the things that we found helpful, as we mentioned also before break, is that we like to try to define Test to Stay. And that definition we've listed here, and we like to, anytime we have the opportunity to read it off. And so Test to Stay is keeping students in school through proctored at-home testing for 6 school days, rather than being subjected to quarantine. So that has been our definition thus far. As mentioned, the current pilot is active at EMS or Evergreen Middle School. We did give all families a chance to opt into that program. Of the families at Evergreen Middle School, we had 117 families that opted in. At that point, they received at-home test kits, and those testing kits were provided from CDPHE at no cost to Jeffco Public Schools. With regard to some of the data and pilot monitoring that we've wanted to do, the data being collected by Jeffco upon, of course, the parents and the guardians opting in, as a reminder, it's safe and secure, and upon opting in is consented to by families upon that opt-in. We're collecting metrics such as days gained in the classroom, test kit usage, test kit distribution, staff time spent, ease of process for families, and those types of things are being reported weekly by our EMS team, and they will continue to be reported weekly through mid-February. And as mentioned here, and we've already talked a little bit about this with Pam's update thus far, is that we are exploring what the change to a 5-day quarantine will look like. As you know, the definition of Test to Stay has been testing for 6 school days, so that doesn't exactly mesh, and we need a little bit of time to work out what that means. So we are working on that, and so we just want to make sure that that's not super confusing to folks and that we're on it.
So quick update with extracurricular activities. So as with the expiration of the JCPH public health order, we are no longer testing our unvaccinated or requiring our unvaccinated student athletes or students who wish to participate in our choirs and activities to test weekly. The hubs are still open, and we still do have the ability to test for those who want to. Whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated, we just took away the required piece for the unvaccinated students. We do still, obviously per the county-wide mandate, we still are wearing masks in athletics and activities for our performers, our sponsors, and then our spectators at events. We have, as I've reported, throughout every presentation I've had the opportunity to be here, This fall has been a big success in the sense that we've been able to have our events where we weren't obviously able to do that last year. We have not had to quarantine whole teams, and we have not had to cancel events, so it's been a big success. That has slightly changed a bit the last week of December as our new variant has come through. We have not had to quarantine whole teams because of vaccination rates and those things, but we have, due to losing coaches, officials, a large portion of unvaccinated athletes within a team, we have had to start losing games. And that has been just as a result of not only our schools, but other schools in the area. So we are rescheduling all of those and working through that now. But it's a little more challenging that it's been this fall. Schools, again, though, to repeat, and it's something I'm proud of, and it's really a testament to the work of our schools and our kids and our coaches, our leaders, is we are still offering full range of activities. We are still moving forward with those experiences, and we're trying to make them as normal as possible for our kids while still keeping people safe and following the guidelines. We are currently in a situation where we are analyzing our return to sport process. That's something new. I haven't really spoken with this group, but we have a process when a student athlete tests positive for COVID-19 after their quarantine period or isolation period. They come back and do a return to sport protocol similar to what we do when students return from concussions. It's a multi-day process where our athletic trainers, our partners through Panorama, are measuring, heart rates, respiratory rates, making sure kids recover. There's enough science out there about concern about students bouncing back. So we work through that process. Currently, we have had a part of that process. It's a little bit different than a normal injury, is that we have kids get a doctor's note before they do their return to sport protocol, which is a little bit unique. Our health partners are reviewing that to see if we can move to a little bit more normal process where a student athlete would come back after their quarantine and isolation. They would begin their return to sport, and then if any point in that process they had difficulties with their respiratory numbers or anything like that, our athletic trainers in schools would send that student and kind of stop them from playing their sport or activity until they go see a doctor ahead of time, which is kind of normal practice for what we do for other respiratory things, but also just injuries in general. So the benefit of doing that for us would be it takes a burden off our families. It is really difficult right now for families to get in and get appointments, as well as there's some financial cost. Obviously, going to see your healthcare provider. And so we're analyzing whether that's best or not. We're really leaning on our partners from Panorama to do that. Another thing that continues to impact us, and Jill alluded to this just a minute ago, is we still are under our CDPHE health order that sets some capacity guidelines around events. Really, the number is 500 plus. Any events 500 plus that are unseated events, then we are required to have vaccination, proof of vaccination for everybody that attends. And so we're working through that. Most of our events fall short of 500. So a general wrestling event or boys and girls basketball event, choir performances, those kind of things fall under that 500. Some get very close to it historically, looking at historical data. But as we move into second semester, we do have 14 athletic events that traditionally far and way exceed that 500 number, as well as school dances and some of those things that very well could go over that number. So we are working with our schools to work through each of those situations a little bit differently. We're trying some different strategies around pre-selling tickets and those kind of things, as well as seeing if we can keep very large events, seated events, so a basketball game, can we sell out a gymnasium and still reasonably keep our kids seated and those kind of things in order to try to make events as normal as possible. So that health order has been extended to January 31st. And so we'll obviously wait and monitor what we're doing and see if it's successful over the next month, but then also make plans as if it will be extended into February, just as make sure we're prepared as best as we can be. So, I think that's it.
Thank you, Patrick. So quick update on the Collaborative Monitoring Committee, and this slide still represents the process and how we move forward. Our next meeting will be January 25th. I am going to send that to each of you if you'd like to join us. We're having about 30 in attendance each time, pretty much the same group that's coming. However, we have an additional 25 that are just staying in the loop as far as through emails and getting feedback to me if they aren't able to attend the meeting. And again, we continue to have all of our employee associations represented. Our last meeting, we brought up and had great discussions and feedback around testing K-8, which is now off the table. We talked about test to stay, vaccination clinics, and then impact on schools was the one that they really wanted to dig into and really focused on the social and emotional health and support for our students and our teachers. And then we are also looking at updating the operation guide, which continues to be a challenge as things are changing. So I'll be working on that. They also looked at the mitigation strategies chart, and we're very pleased that we were getting that information about how to layer and give schools a way to look at what they could actually do in their buildings to mitigate in a way that works for them. So I have sent an update to this whole committee about the changes. So they did receive the letter that went out to the district as far as the new COVID updates and guidelines. I'm asking them to give me feedback on all of those areas prior to our next meeting, because time runs short, and they all have great ideas. So I'm looking forward to getting those over the next week. So we'll be able to get that out as an agenda item based on what they're wanting to dig into. So our next steps, what we're continuing to do is we're monitoring this test to stay pilot at EMS. As I talk through this, I've been able to meet with JCPH epidemiologists today. I've met with mobile health, and then I just finished up prior to this meeting with CDPHE, and there are expanded opportunities around testing that we're going to be digging into. I don't have a lot of information right now, but we do know that from CDC, CDPHE, JCPH, testing is where we're headed as the greatest way to get ahead of this and keep our schools open. So they are rolling out a number of opportunities, and it's all based on getting test kits right now. CDPHE has a little bit more, power in being able to purchase things and think they're going to have quite a few of the at-home test kits. They're going to be able to get to us pretty quickly. Superintendent Dorland, myself, and Katie Ampus, who's the Commissioner of Education for CDC, have really been working on how to get more of the at-home kits available and how those can be distributed. They also continue to look at this test to stay pilot, knowing it's going to need to shift a little bit because of quarantines. But we will be meeting with them as the pilot comes to a close to help inform what's working and the next steps. And they're really excited to see how that piece can go forward, viewing that as a real key with our outbreak schools to be working on a process that allows those quarantine kids to be able to get right back into school. I do want to pass along CDPHE specifically. Wanted to thank Superintendent Dorland, the board, and our cabinet for the push on this, and that as a whole district, that this has been our focus to keep our schools in a good place to be open and our students healthy. We're continuing to update the internal operations guide, and right now we posted as updated as of January 3rd and is already outdated. So I am working on that to hopefully have it unfold on Monday morning. Communications right now is going to replace the link that leads to that document with a new graphic that we've worked with CDPHE on that really is a clear at-a-glance picture around quarantines and the different situations. So that's going to be helpful for schools and for the community until we get the operations guide updated. And the return on outbreak schools, and I realized all these words I didn't put outdoor lab in that bullet. So we're working on a proposal to return our outbreak schools to the full residential experience. And looks like we'll be able to move forward on that. So I have a final conversation with JCPH on just some guidance pieces. There hasn't been any resistance because it's all about the testing that occurs. So we look at testing now, both vaccinated and unvaccinated students and all adults and the student leaders that are going. So we are really assured, no matter what their vaccination status is, that they're healthy to get on those buses and ready to go. I did follow up with them as we have more students that might be positive and have to stay home. They are sharing their full online curriculum with me, and that is provided by the 6th grade teachers in the school for all students that are positive and cannot attend. So we just wanted to make sure they had access to something with the similar content, although it's not the same experience. Working on established guidelines for consideration that impact on schools from absences on operations if we would need to consider shifting to remote learning. And then we'll continue to support you as the board in any way that we can participate in collaborative conversations with our public health partners and any state leaders. And again, I'm glad to report that it's feeling like much more of a positive collaboration at this point. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Ms. Yoder and team. We'll open this up for board conversation, questions, thoughts. Who would like to begin? Ms. Miller, why don't we start with you? We'll just change it up. Did you raise your hand a tiny bit?
Could we just real quickly go back to the outbreak schools and then to the residential experience? I mean, the outbreak schools, some of them have been an outbreak for a while now, right? Since the beginning of the year. So are we suggesting, or are you saying that we potentially, with this testing protocols, will be able to move away from the outbreak status or whatever that standard is?
Not necessarily the name, the status, however, being able to include them in the experience. As we talk about with our health partners, the pieces that they suggest, and they're actually outlined in CDC recommendations for outdoor camps, those have already been followed by our outdoor lab schools. They'd already taken all of the bunkhouses and the dorms and made sure to create pods. So that group of kids have already been staying together. And I didn't realize that they were already doing a number of those mitigation pieces. So they continue as a cohort, a pod group, as they do all their activities. And then, of course, they're masked anytime that they're outside of the dorm, and except for the cafeteria when they eat. And then they're outside so much of the time. So the outdoor lab principals are very comfortable in suggesting going forward with this.
I think the difference is that they'll be able to participate in the overnights, and if they were in outbreak schools prior, they've not been allowed to stay overnight.
Right. So that's kind of the major significant change for those kids to still have the experience, even though it might be a little bit more contained.
Yeah. Okay. And as far as the definition of outbreak schools, all of our health partners are still working on what that really means going forward.
Right.
And a part of that too was conversation with the principals around the schools that went up there because of the testing and the cohorting. They didn't have positives. So as we looked at the data, we weren't having kids test up there, being sick at outdoor lab. And so we felt like as a kind of a collaborative conversation was around if students are all testing going up there and we have these mitigations, we feel comfortable that the residential experience is worth, moving forward or having a conversation about moving forward.
And then a quick follow-up for you, since you're chatting with me about it, is for the panorama. So we've had that in process, or we've had that policy in place for a while. And so I just wanted to ask for clarification. You said if a parent does go to their doctor and does get this child is able to go forward and participate in whatever sport, they can bring that to the coach or to whomever, and they can participate. They don't have to go to Panorama, or do they have to do Panorama anyway? I just want clarification on that process, please.
No, that's a great question. So the current protocol is that after a kid goes through their isolation period, then they need to go see their healthcare professional. It can be any, family physician. It doesn't have to be through Panorama. They get a doctor's clearance to say they're fine to begin going through, joining sports. And then the students start a 5-day process where they, day one, the kids, ride the bike or do light cardio, and our athletic trainers monitor their heart rates and those kind of things. Day 2, they up the rigor. Day 3, they update the rigor. And then days 4 and 5, the kids compete in practices or games. But the trainer, they have to check in pre and post with the trainers and do some things. Again, just trying to make sure respiratory rates are safe and your kids are rebounding well. What our healthcare providers are looking to evaluate is, do we need to have that doctor's note first before engaging in the 5-day protocol? No one's advocating for doing away with the protocol. We want to make sure our kids are safe. It's just that process. Sometimes, if a kid is test positive, they're already out for 5 days. Then they have to try to get in and see their healthcare provider, which could be another 10 to 12 days we're seeing right now on average. And then they start a return to sport protocol. So we're talking, 20 to 25 days potentially. And the early data suggests that that's excessive. And so our health providers, our trainers feel comfortable with the idea of letting the kids after their isolation, begin their return to sport. And then if there's complications, then we get the physician involved. So the process is not going away.
Okay, I just want clarification on exactly what those steps were looking like for those kiddos. So Panorama is still the one that helps evaluate, those trainers are the ones that help evaluate those kiddos?
Correct.
And so they're still tracking how they're doing physically?
Absolutely.
Okay, yep. Thank you.
And that we do that for all kinds of injuries. So even if it's a broken wrist or something, if we see a kid's not responding well, we could pause and say, hey, we don't feel comfortable with you participating anymore. You need to go see a trainer or a doctor so we can make sure you're safe to participate. That's kind of the direction we're looking. We've asked the question of, can we move in that direction?
Okay.
And our healthcare providers are, evaluating that currently.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then I just have one more question. For EMS, there's 100 and some children, or 100 and some families that have opted for the test to stay. There's 600 kiddos in that school. So is there a threshold, or is it all right that we only have 100 families, I guess, doing the test to stay in terms of the evaluation of the effectiveness?
Yeah, as far as the actual attendance of EMS, I'd actually have you chime in, or even Renee. Is that accurate? 600 or so? Is it?
I don't have the specific enrollment numbers, but I want to make sure that we're clear on what the test to stay that was for.
Right.
So I do want to talk more specifically about that, Jill or Ham.
About 100, it's for unvaccinated students.
So if we assume some type of threshold to your question, so let's say, I think what you're getting at is there's potentially 600 students at the school. We can confirm that only a portion of them have opted in. And so as far as thresholds go, I don't think we capped it and said that we only had a certain amount of people or families that could opt in. We offered it to every single family that was there. And so I don't think we had a threshold that we were trying to hit as far as opting in.
And I'm not saying that we didn't allow people to opt in. What I'm asking is, does CDPHE and or Jeffco Public Health sit back and say, hey, really, we would think this would be more effective with 30% participation or 40% participation based on the ferocity of the Omicron, going through our schools. So I was more concerned from the side of what they were seeking versus, I know we wouldn't stop anybody from opting in. So
yeah, absolutely.
That was just kind of a question for how they were helping to evaluate the effectiveness of the program.
I think that's an interesting question. To be honest, we were the first in the state, as I think we mentioned before break, to actually try Test This Day. And at that time, I don't believe, and Pam can correct me if I'm wrong, we were getting a lot of those types of just indicators from JCPH or CDPHE at the time. It'd be interesting to know if they have kind of leaned in a little bit and given us those types of indicators since then. So
actually spoke with them today, and they're fine with how it's running. I think one of the questions that's coming up, should we start looking at some of the vaccinated students? However, they have not had a lot of cases since we started this. So the actual data piece that we're struggling with is there were very few cases, and most of the close contacts were then vaccinated students. So they have very limited data that they're actually working with. And then we're just going to talk more this following week, what it means with the Omicron numbers, and if they want to relook at that. But they're very happy with how it's working. A lot of it is to figure out the processes and then what makes it scalable. So that's what they're really using this for.
I'd like to add also that it's interesting when we chose to actually pick EMS to try to implement this program, it was right around the time that we had breaks for the schools. And so interestingly enough, even if there had been somebody that came back as a positive case, we didn't have close contacts because of the timing of when we chose to implement it. So that's another reason that we have a lack of data. One of the things that I did hear is that we should get some data this week for if test to stay is actually working, if we're saving some days of being able to test back in and get kids back in school. So that'll be coming very soon.
Thank you. Great. Ms. Parker?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. As far as the quarantining requirements, who is notifying the parents about a close contact? What's the process for that?
So that has changed, and we just put this out to principals today. We are not doing close contacts to the school. JCPH knows that just keeping track of things right now is going to be a challenge. And so they're asking schools to keep track of the positive cases. And then there's an Excel spreadsheet that we are now sharing with JCPH as soon as a school hits 10 cases. Well, I can tell you most schools hit more than 10 our first day back. So JCPH is trying to work with their system that is overwhelmed and trying to keep up with this. And then our nurses are making sense of it. But at this point, from CDC, CDPHE, and JCPH, schools are not in the position to try to do the contact tracing. So we are moving and messaging really from all the public health departments that we need to start taking responsibility as families and really keeping our kids home if they're sick. It's an uncomfortable shift for a lot of people. We have entered a stage where we've gone from very high-level black and white mandates to shifting away from that, and that is by public health. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And so we're really fleshing out that in the school without putting too much on our nurses. We don't want to add anything more than what they've already been doing. They wrestle with it themselves. And so we gave all the principals a document today that the nurses have already seen on how they do and follow any kind of reporting. But as far as actually using what we did for contacts, that has gone away. So we'll have to report out on what that looks like and kind of the results of that as we've entered a whole new arena.
Thank you. And if we're not doing the contact tracing, who would then be quarantining themselves? I understand the isolation if you test positive, but are we just going to tell maybe families if your child tests positive, the other kids in their family should quarantine?
Correct. So there's the isolation policy, and hopefully whoever's positive in home can isolate from the rest of the family. If not, then there's some additional pieces that go into place if there cannot be a total separation. Some of those families that there's isolation and then would have to be quarantined because the exposure continues would actually hit about a 10-day, so that piece is still in place. The other one is as people from outside are realizing they've been exposed, then they can get testing and they would say, we've been exposed or waiting for a test, that would be a time to quarantine. So they'll watch for symptoms, they'll wait for test results if they choose to test. And so that's how that plays out. Obviously, as we get this breaking out more in classrooms, teachers, the clinics, health aides, and the RNs will be talking about where are we seeing that, and if a class is having more contact, then we'll have conversations with JCPH. The epidemiologists are working now more instead of on their end entering data to be called as soon as the school hits a certain number. They'll actually come out and meet with the RNs and the school staff to talk about mitigations or how we're going to look at those quarantines.
Okay. Also, as far as vaccinated versus unvaccinated, Omicron seems to hit even people who have been vaccinated, as we've heard from many people. What if you didn't distinguish between vaccinated and unvaccinated and you had a simple standard policy for everybody?
So I've already started working with legal on some of that because we've had a lot of questions where people feel that it does really pick out unvaccinated. We are going and already have moved to discuss all of our serial testing is now open to vaccinated and unvaccinated. And I think pushing that is really going to be helpful. Before they were just testing pretty much unvaccinated students and staff. And then I think we have to come together what that really means if we opened it up and said it's going to be the same for everybody. I've had many calls about that. So I haven't really gone any further than saying I know it's a trend and a concern that we start looking more at the fact there are breakthroughs. That'll easily be part of discussions next week with our epidemiology team.
Okay, thanks. And finally, the 500 plus seat unseated situation, what's the difference? If you had a venue, you talked about the basketball game, and so the audience can be seated. Do they have to be every other seat, or full seating capacity is okay?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the health order doesn't call that out. There's a lot of gray area questions in there. Even to the point of, is seated, does that mean given a seat? And then if you stand on that seat, it doesn't matter what you do in your seat. So there's a ton of interpretation of that. We are looking at it. We've looked at it so far under every student has a spot to sit within the bleachers.
Thanks.
But that's been, honestly, full transparency has been one of the harder, more challenging pieces of it because there is a lot of gray area. So we want to do our best to keep this event as normal as possible and keep that experience. That's been a goal from the beginning all year, but we're also trying to follow the guidelines, and so it's been a little tricky.
Ms. Reed?
So I was looking at the tiered mitigation strategies, and so clearly at this point, the infection rates are high. And so have we fully implemented all of the tier 2 interventions in all of our schools? And have we fully implemented tier 3 in all of our schools that are in outbreak status?
That's a great question. Conversations with principals right now, our ideal had been you get a certain point you move into, but they're looking at all the mitigation strategies at this point in terms of what they can do. So the list is much easier for our elementary schools to put into place than our secondary schools. I do have conversations with our secondary principals who just struggle with the nature of how our high schools especially function. And I can tell you they're doing their best to put that into place. Our outbreak schools, conversations I have with the principals, they are doing everything on that list they possibly can. And some of them are keeping great data for me just to be able to say, here's what worked. We know we have one school that did get out of outbreak. I've compared some of their mitigation strategies. There's really nothing that stands out. So I think the community itself was doing a lot too to really help mitigate the stop of the infection.
And we have the suggested things that we have for air quality, and we're implementing the UV light filters.
So I know there's some things in place about that, but I can't speak to it.
Okay.
So if you want more information about that, I know Mr. Bell and Mr. Reed have shared presentations about especially the airflow and how they can work with that within a school. I'm not sure where we are with the UV light conversations.
A few pilots going right now, is that correct?
And am I understanding that, I'm sorry?
I think we were going to get a little bit more of a response to that last question if you're interested.
Yeah, that's great.
We have one building that we started last year that continues to use the UV. We're going to be installing 2 more sites, Stony Creek and Everett Middle School, and that should be done within the next 6 to 8 weeks. They're under contract. We're waiting for the materials to arrive.
Thank you. So I'm understanding that JCPH is still in support of our test to stay. They have not recommended that we not go that way with the rise in rates.
Now they're very much in support, and test to stay, as we look at that, is more resource intensive. And so that's the piece we'll need to continue to look through as a district. And part of what we're measuring at EMS is having staff involved. What does that mean? What is it taking away from any other activities and work in the school? And is that something we can keep putting on people going forward? So that's our own internal study about that. The CDPHE people leading the testing have said you just need to really be aware that's going to be a huge component if you go to scale. There's going to be an impact in terms of staffing and any kind of budget that would support that.
Okay. And the test to stay is, like, I think I've been a little confused about the conversation here, because in a way it sort of seemed like the opt-in was like anyone could do it, but isn't the ultimate objective of this to say if you would have been in a position where you should have quarantined, you can take the test in order to stay?
Right.
So really, to understand that it's not how many people have opted in out of the total number of students in the school, it's the number of people who have opted in as opposed to quarantining, correct? Mm-hmm. And do we know sort of how many have opted to quarantine instead?
One family.
Okay, that's what I was particularly curious about.
So the other students have gained that instructional piece back by being able to return. Most families test first thing in the morning. It's a 15-minute wait, get their report, and either email or text the school with the report, or the student comes with their phone with the report.
Okay, great. I've received a letter from a parent, and it made me wonder as well what the rationale is for no longer testing athletes who are participating particularly in indoor sports, where we know there's a lot of exertion and a lot of breathing, to not be testing. And I can understand to a certain extent not delineating between vaccinated and unvaccinated, since we know vaccinated students can spread the virus. But I guess I'm sort of with Mary on this one. Doesn't it make sense to test all of them as opposed to just not testing anymore?
Patrick, do you want to address that?
Yeah. So a lot of it was just following the health order. The public health order by JCPH required us to test our unvaccinated students and coaches and sponsors as a requirement in order to participate. During that time period where we were doing that, one of the things that we just haven't seen is a situation where we're the only district in the metro area or in the state that has a requirement to do so. And so we have not seen a situation where it's showing results that's positively impacting us versus one of our neighboring districts. For example, really in the fall, no schools or very few in the state lost competitions or had to quarantine whole teams. So we weren't seeing data to suggest that we were, everybody else was really struggling, but this was working for us and it was keeping us, successful. And so that coupled with the fact that the resource and the burden that was putting on our schools, I'm remiss. I should have said this earlier in my portion of the presentation. I am so thankful for our athletics directors, our activities directors, our athletic secretaries. The amount of work that they've done to give kids the opportunity has been monumental. And just obviously I'm very biased and supportive of that group in my role, but they've been incredible. And so continuing that on without, seeing a major benefit, it was part of the decision making.
Okay. And it's interesting that you bring up the public health order because that's been lifted. And I just wonder, have we gotten additional recommendations from Jefferson County Public Health as opposed to orders? Have there been sort of, this is what we think you probably should do, or it just seems like the order went away and then we had no guidance anymore that the board was able to see. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering what happened.
And that's back to that shift from health orders to recommendations. And in the conversation around this particular area, it's just ensure masking, and especially in that really high risk type of events. Other than that, because we're the only district that had been doing that, they also didn't have any real data to compare that it had made a difference.
Well, and I'm not necessarily thinking just about this, but just across the board, I'm interested in specifically what the recommendations are that we're getting from JCPH.
Basically, they said they will work with us and make sure what we want to put in place is what they support, and we'll work together on that. So there are very few solid recommendations at this point.
I'm curious about this too, because going from orders to silence has been odd. And I've been really curious as well from the health department why, I was glad to hear you say you've been doing so much in collaboration with them. It's just been really surprising not to have any recommendations from them.
And I agree. And as I address, that's been probably the most complicated piece coming back this week, from going from very straightforward guidance to recommendations. I think as a team and with our leadership, thinking through where we are with being able to implement certain things and the impact that has been on some of our staff and schools, that's been part of the consideration. We'll continue talking with our health partners, and I think as they see things transpire in the state, we'll have more of those conversations if there's more that we need to be looking at. So we're going to continue communicating about the mitigation strategies that we know what works. We are going to be very clear on continuing to support testing, and especially the serial surveillance testing. We are working with mobile health not to cut back on any of our hubs, but they will shift schedules. And now we're looking at opening up in our K-8 schools, which will give more access to families to have a testing site. So that's conversations I'll be having with our leadership beginning of next week. Mobile Health's ready to step in. So they would have fewer hours at each school, but be able to spread their teams out to more schools.
I would add that the three mitigation strategies they continue to recommend strongly are the masks, vaccines, and testing. They're still really pushing those three things, that we can be really efficient around those three things. That would be the recommendation at this time.
Ms. Reed, did you have any further questions? I wanted to make sure that we hear voices from all the board members before we have to move on. Ms. Varda, did you have questions?
You mentioned there are three recommendations. I wonder if we could continue to have access to their recommendations as well. I'm a public health researcher myself, and so I really appreciate those kinds of recommendations from those experts. And so I just like those to remain visible to us if we could be involved.
If you look at slide 2 in the presentation, there are links that you can follow to see from CDPHE that does give some guidance, and also CDC.
Oh, I know, but I was specifically wondering about JCPH.
Okay.
Just then, 2 things. I appreciate that in the communications back to families, there was a link to vaccination opportunities. I want to continue to advocate for vaccinations and giving access to our families. I think as schools are in a unique position to have a way that we can help parents find resources for vaccinations and hopefully boosters for our kids now eligible. I think, I think that we can, it's one of the things that I find hopeful. I read this, JCPH has said that like businesses, for example, that have 95% of their employees vaccinated can go without masks. So I think we all look forward to the day we can safely remove our masks, and I like having benchmarks. So it would be, to me, I see vaccinations as a way to get there, to one day remove masks. And as our mitigation strategy, I just hope that we can shift some of these resources away. We talk so much about testing, and I continue to just believe if we could help educate families around vaccinations. If I wish in the communications as a parent, I hear from a lot of parents that they can't go get their kids vaccinated because they don't have time, they don't know where to go. I personally had a very difficult time getting my little one vaccinated, and I just feel like that is something that we could better help communicate and educate our families around how to have access to. I've heard families say, I wish I could just like look up. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to reveal my ancientness again. I got my smallpox vaccination at school when I was in elementary school. Is there any way that Jeffco Public Health can send people into like one day in each school, that if parents want to take advantage while their kids are at school, they could get their vaccine?
So we are using some of our school sites for vaccination clinics, and those are all after school. The ones that have already given first dose or the second dose are now being scheduled for boosters. Because of the outbreak of Omicron, they're keeping it just the school community and not opening it up any wider than that. That will probably come once we get through this surge. Then they're willing to talk about how many schools we want to be able to impact. Plus, we're working with Walmart and their pharmacy on what can be set up. So
like ours it wasn't open up to the community.
Right. It was just
we
in
just
the school.
lined up and got marched down. And I realized, that it's different now, and that you're not going to be requiring every student to do it. When I went through that, every single kid went through that line. But just to have it there during the day, and so here's this school, and these students at this school can go this day, and then we'll have an event at a different school a different day, and the students from that school can go that day. If something like that could be done.
I think we can open the conversation. JCPH was down over 50% of their staff today. So we're all dealing with the staffing, and then as soon as some of that's resolved, I think we can open those conversations.
Ms. Freda, do you have one last thing?
And really my purpose here is I just really want to advocate that this is a thing I hope that we can support. And then this won't be a surprise. The outbreak status, I know you have it on the slide, we're talking about it. I still think it's incredibly ridiculous and illogical that we can't bring schools out of outbreak status. 28 days with 5 of those disconnected cases is going to be even more impossible now that we have these surges. I really want to encourage us to get on that, because we need to get these schools out of outbreak status and get these kids back in school. And with these opportunities for test to stay, I mean, like, I just have to say it's the frustrating part is like, if it's 28 days to go into outbreak status, it's 5 disconnected cases. 28 days without one case, there's a real disconnect between one case and 5 disconnected cases. So you can tell I'm a big advocate for our masks and our mitigation strategies, but this outbreak status stuff is keeping too many kids out of school for too long. And I'm worried about the impact on our kids and their learning because the outbreak status is persisting to not let them return. I can't say, like, I'll probably say it every meeting. So.
Yeah, we do bring it up, but I will tell you in the conversations, as this would move more to an endemic, then it falls under all the categories of the other diseases that we have that are highly communicable. And so those numbers, like the 28 days, that right now is because we're a pandemic. When that shifts, there's still outbreaks and there's still people that have to quarantine if measles outbreak, those type of things. But the numbers then shift because it goes into that category.
The 28 days actually makes sense to me. It's the 5 that doesn't. I mean, with the 1. 28 days without one case. Right. Is that correct? If they said 20, I don't need to get into the weeds here, 28 days without 5 disconnected cases, over time actually would also make sense. 28 days without 1 is the improbable situation right now. We will never get there.
So it sounds like this is a conversation that your team is having actively, and that there's some board interest in having a language and something more solidified. Ms. Parker, did you have a comment to add to?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on something that Ms. Reed and Ms. Varda had talked about, the recommendations from JCPH versus the orders. I see that Dr. Comstock sent an email to the other Board of Health members and the county commissioners. And this email is all about the Test to Stay program in Evergreen and further her recommendations, if you will, about education, about schools. So are you getting these kinds of emails yourself? Because I'm kind of realizing that the commissioners are very much in here.
Right.
And sometimes looks like they get things that would be helpful for us.
So I was just sent that recently, and they've asked us to start sharing all of our community communication with them too, which will help us all get on the same page. So I have not dug deeply into that, but I have just received it from the epidemiologists.
Because if you could share it when you get it, share it with us, it would be really helpful.
Okay.
Great. Are there any other questions? Because we're about at the end of our time. So I have a couple of questions, but I just want to, I'll sum it up. I'll go really fast. One, can you just remind us really quick for our viewing audience at home, folks in the room, what was the positivity rate for the 15,000 plus, whatever it was, tests of unvaccinated students in athletics and activities?
Yeah, it was just at 1% and a little bit. I don't remember it exactly off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
1.09%.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, that was sort of the average of what was positive that came back. So, I bring that up, and I have been bringing it up because it's not about removing mitigation strategies that are effective. So if there is an effective mitigation strategy that we can help to provide supports to put into place, that's awesome. The ones that are taxing a significant amount of staff time, tests, resources, et cetera, for a 1.09% positivity rate, it's not a substantial benefit to our communities. That's not, to me, I am not an epidemiologist and I'm not in public health. But what I'm saying is we're a school district. And so I just want to reiterate that point, that because I have also heard from parents that are concerned that their kids are participating in athletics and they feel like that we're stripping away something that was a protective measure. And in that case, I feel like that was not a good place for us to double down in terms of something that was an effective mitigation strategy. So I just want to make sure that everyone's hearing that it's not without a data point to accompany it for decision making. Did you want to say? Okay, sorry, I saw the hand move. And then the only other thing is just a comment, as you guys are thinking about, and I saw it was on the slide that you presented, the 500 plus limitations, and I agree, it's talking about fuzzy areas for the sitting down event if you're standing on a chair. But just strong support for as much we can provide to schools, particularly when we get to some of those sort of signature experiences, the dances, the events, that if we can safely figure out a way to help support schools and school leadership to have those experiences happen as part of our students' experience as kids and young people, I just am really would be very appreciative of the more we can help them to navigate that, because I know everyone's really overwhelmed.
And that's been our guidance from to our community superintendents. So our schools are reaching out to community superintendents when they have those big school-wide events, and it could be something as simple as 8th grade registration at the high school level, or all of these things. If we think we're going to be in that threshold, we're working collaboratively between the community super and the principal to continue those events, make sure those events are still happening, and just doing it in a way, maybe tweaking how it's done slightly in order to best follow the guidance. And then with the athletics at the high school level specifically, we're doing the same thing, and then we're actively monitoring the success of those. So, for instance, we have 2 very large basketball games on Friday night, Wheat Ridge and Golden. If you aren't doing anything, shameless plug, Wheat Ridge and Golden, and then Columbine and Chatfield play very large basketball games on Friday. And so we have a plan in place. Our schools are proactive in their communication. I feel really good about it. That doesn't mean it won't have its hiccups, and I'm going to be there, and we're going to monitor how that looks. And if it doesn't go well, or we don't feel like we're doing a good job of following the guidance, and we're trying to circumvent the rules or do anything like that, then we're going to adjust. And our goal is to make it as normal as possible, because we know how important it is for our kids and our communities. We also want to be respectful of the health professionals that are doing the best they can to help us keep our kids safe. So just know we are very much monitoring and are ready to adjust. We have multiple options right now.
Awesome. Go Farmers. Okay. I think that this is going to be it for right now, because we're a little bit behind time. Thank you, all of you all and your teams, for your work on this. It's a incredibly heavy lift, and we appreciate you guys keeping us updated and informed as we move forward. So thank you. We're going to take just a really brief break, because I need to grab some language in about 6.5 minutes. I'm just kidding. We'll do 10 after, about 5 minutes. If you guys can hustle back, because I know we're running a little bit late, and we've got folks that are here also for public comment. So we'll do that, and then we shall return. Thank you.
Dreaming wide awake. This is the life I make. I don't need a holiday to make me feel this way. Listen up, take a chance. You can sing, you can dance, you can live like there's no tomorrow. Give it time and you'll find there's a rule, there's a rhyme. Move along and the rest will follow. shine like stars. We shine, we shine. But here we go now. We shine like stars. We shine like stars. We shine like stars. We shine. Oh yeah, we shine like stars. Oh yeah, we shine like stars. Like like stars. I'm living right here and now, and I don't wanna miss out. Is this what life's all about? The world is calling and I'm listening. Yeah, I'm listening. I feel the freedom inside. Come on, let's go for a ride. I finally opened my eyes and I can see it so clearly. So clearly. Life is but a dream. And isn't it amazing? Oh, life can be amazing. I feel my heartbeat racing. I'll fly, soaring ever higher. I can light my inner fire, and then we'll see what happens now. What happens now? And then we'll see what happens now. What happens now? Watch what happens now. Sometimes we have what it takes, sometimes we make our mistakes, and now the journey awaits. So don't you wanna come with me? Come with me. We'll make our way to the top, we'll never break, never stop. And when we get to the spot, we'll know we made it there together. We'll remember forever that life is but a dream. And isn't it amazing? Oh, life can be amazing. I feel my heartbeat racing. I'll fly, soaring ever higher. I can light my inner fire, and then we'll see what happens now. What happens now? And then we'll see what happens now. What happens now? Watch what happens now. It's amazing, oh, it's amazing. It's amazing, it's amazing. It's amazing, it's amazing. Whoa, it's amazing. begins now.
All right, we are back, and we're going to move on to agenda item 7.02 and 7.03, which were pulled from the consent agenda. Ms. Miller, would you, it's currently on discussion, and they were pulled. Would you like to move forward?
Yes, Madam President. I would like to make a motion to change the consent agenda for a no vote for 6.09 and 6.010 that are now 7.02, 7.02 and 7.03.
So the motion is to amend the vote of the consent agenda so that those initial items 6.09 and 6.1 are pulled for a no vote and renumber, and the agenda is renumbered. Is there a second?
A second.
Roll call. Discussion?
Discussion.
Discussion.
I thought we had already voted to take it off the consent. So what are we doing now that's different?
Well,
so I'm
learning.
a learning creature. So there was unclear language in the motion that was made. And so those items were essentially pulled off the consent agenda for separate discussion. But in essence, as a board, we voted yes on them. So I think my understanding is Ms. Miller's motion and her intention was to pull those items for separate votes and they would have their own discussion as separate motions. Does that make sense? Am I saying this right? Melissa says yes. Ms. Barber. Discussion elsewise. Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Schooley?
Yes.
Ms. Varda?
Yes.
So now we're going to move on to 7.02, which I cannot read from here. Is there a motion? Do I have to do this again? Is there a motion to approve? No. Is there a motion for 7.02, correct? Yep.
I'm unclear. Just
Ms.
to
Schooley?
discuss?
The motion needed to be read is on the agenda item. If you have it pulled up on board docs, that particular agenda item.
The 6.09? 7. Okay, but wait a minute. But we don't have a 7.02. What was
I can read the motion. So I move to increase the amount of the previously approved guaranteed minimum price by $269,858.76 to increase the Hasselden Construction Inc. agreement to the amount of $10,348,217.76 for the addition and renovation of Jefferson Junior Senior High School, and to authorize the Executive Director of Facilities and Construction Management to execute the contract documents. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Thank you. So back in September of 2020, when we went forward with the Jefferson project, junior, senior, I think at that time, Tim, you had said that the $10,078,359 was the exact price that we needed to have for that project, which we came in at exactly at that amount of money. I'm wondering why at that time when we had the design with an auditorium and we had also the field that was being developed, why we didn't have the cost in there for the auditorium seats. And if we knew that we were going to be using the parking lot as a staging area, why we wouldn't have had the parking lot for improvement as well.
Okay. The auditorium improvements, which consisted more than just replacing the seating, was bid as an alternate. But we were working to a budget, so we took the pricing on the alternate, but did not add that to the contract until later when we saw where we were with the project, with our contingency, with the contractor contingency. So what happened was we used more of the contractor contingency to offset the work that was done, which included painting, a new acoustical wall panels, carpeting, as well as the seating, a new sound booth, and new doors going in. So it was a rather complete renovation of the auditorium. And in order to accomplish all of it, then we needed to add the additional money to cover the seating, which we took out of project contingency. And relative to the parking lot, what we had in there was milling the lot and putting an overlay on it, which milling is what you see on the roads these days before they put new asphalt down. And on the advice of our soils engineer and the civil engineer, they said that as we approached the end of the work, that it was a waste of money to mill this and put an overlay on it because the substructure of the asphalt lot was in such poor condition. So we took that money, added additional money to the contract to do a replacement of the lot, as opposed to just doing something that would, a mill and an overlay, which might last a year or two, and then we're back to potholes and things of that nature. So bottom line is that we'll be returning to the 2018 capital improvement program contingency of $71,000, which is what we have left over in the account, in the Jefferson High School account.
So the $71,000 that is left over comes back over to us for contingency. There's not anything else that needs to be done at Jefferson for any purpose whatsoever.
That's correct.
Okay. I question the auditorium just because I go back to the Alameda project where we had, and that was not a guaranteed maximum price. That was a contract that we.
No, that is a GMP.
Oh, it's a GMP? Okay. So at that time, we had to actually take SBB dollars and buy seats for that project. And I'm trying to figure out how we are allocating for projects for capital need. I appreciate that we use the contingency. That's great for this one, but the decision-making process for the SBB dollars for auditorium seats rather than seeking potentially using the premium dollars that we could have used. When I'm thinking through what Jefferson got, I'm not saying it was bad to give Jefferson their seats. I think it's great. It's just the process thinking through then how we took SBB dollars into capital for auditorium seats rather than potentially drawing from. I know it wasn't project contingency, but program contingency.
On Alameda, the auditorium was a high priority relative to school leadership. It was not necessarily a high priority as it related to the, in terms of we took it as an alternate or something like that. And as you know, Alameda was significantly over budget as it was. Mm-hmm. So we were also trying to live with what we had in terms of funding. So, the school stepped up. They really wanted the auditorium renovated, and they brought forward, we created a separate project. It's not in that GMP at all. It was a separate project using their money, and we did really a great job on the auditorium there in terms of renovating it.
Could program contingency have been used for that purpose, though?
Most of the program contingency that we used went into, virtually all of the program contingency that we had for Alameda went into the major Alameda project. As you've seen from other projects where, we've covered the cost of construction by using project contingency as opposed to coming here and saying, keeping project contingency out over here and asking for a transfer of CIP money to create a contingency.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Parker?
I have two questions. One of them is this common that you need to revise whatever contract maximums have been stated? And why was this put on the consent calendar? What parameters are there that allow increases in costs to go on consent versus for discussion?
Well, to answer the first question, we've had 3 projects on the whole program that have gone over the GMP. 2 of them you're addressing tonight. The other one was Wilmot, which was opened, a year or so ago. And again, it was just kind of unusual conditions that Wilmot was site conditions and things of that nature that drove the cost there. In terms of the second question was?
How this would qualify for something on the consent agenda versus?
Well, when we brought it to the board in the first place, they approved the GMP. And so when the GMP went up, then we thought it was appropriate to come back to the school board and tell you that, yes, it's gone up by this amount and get it approved. Now, if that's, would obviously save us all a lot of time if we didn't have to do that, but we felt that it was the appropriate thing to do.
And I guess more specifically, I understand that there are some numbers like $500,000. If anything's over $500,000, you must, do certain things. But is this considered in your mind something that is well below the requirement to have full discussion?
The $500,000 cap is as it relates to contracts. So when we brought the initial GMP on both of these projects to the board, obviously the contract amount exceeded the $500,000 limit that Steve has. So yeah, these do not obviously go over the $500,000. It was more a matter of what we felt was the appropriate thing to do.
Just to inform us, essentially.
To answer your question, by policy, I could have approved this without coming to the board. However, as Tim just indicated, the project total was significant, $10 million and 7. So we felt it was something that you should see.
Okay, thanks.
Other discussion, questions, comments?
I appreciate getting the chance to hear more about it. I continue to be impressed with the way you explain how you're managing all the different nuances and the different ways and the success of the project overall with just these very few exceptions. So I actually appreciate getting to hear that it feels like a success story when we hear these parts of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to approve this item. Roll call, please.
Ms. Miller?
No.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Schooley?
Yes.
Ms. Varda?
Yes.
Moving on to 7.03, which was renumbered from 6.10. Do you need to read the motion? I move to increase the amount of the previously approved guaranteed maximum price by $110,991 to increase the Hasselden Construction Inc. agreement to the amount of $6,276,846 for the Lumberg Elementary School addition and renovation, and to authorize the Executive Director of Facilities and Construction Management to execute the contract documents. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I had a real quick question. In the GMP, labor shortage is normally covered. They take the risk for the labor component. So I was wondering why we were going to be giving them the additional funding for that purpose.
The abatement contracts are separate. They are not a part of the general contractor's scope of work. They have issues, liability issues, and for the same reason that we have district-wide projects, by having a separate abatement contractor, we don't, even if the general contractor wanted to do the work, they would mark it up by anywhere from 15 to 20%. So we actually save money by having them contracted directly with us, and alleviate the issue with the general contractor not wanting to have that scope of work under their general contract for liability reasons.
So this part was not under the GMP. Is that what you're telling me?
That's
that
correct.
This was a subcontract of yours, not of theirs.
That's correct.
And so the money, the contingency of the project is covering your subcontract agreement.
Correct.
Correct? Not the GMP's additional money.
No, well, the GMP amount, a portion of that is because it's all related. What we're talking about here are what's called extended general conditions. The portion of the work that was impacted by the asbestos removal. In a nutshell, what happened was the asbestos contractor got in, did their work, and then finished up, got the space cleared, moved off the job. During the course of construction, part of the work was a total renovation of the mechanical system, including the unit ventilators, which are the devices that are at the windows. When they removed the existing unit ventilators, they found more asbestos there. So we had to bring the asbestos contractor back in. They remobilized. What happened was then that caused a delay to the general contractor because it impacted their overall schedule of not being able to work on a timely basis. So that's what makes up that amount of money.
Thank you.
Sure.
Further discussion, Ms. Parker?
Yes, Mr. Bill, would this be something else that you could have approved yourself without bringing to the board?
Yes.
Okay, so as I understand it, this was for transparency purposes, for information for us to know. And we, if we were to put it on the discussion agenda like these have been put on, and we were to vote it down, what would be the impact for you?
If we were to vote these down, well, in the first one that you just approved, we would not be able to do the auditorium seats or the parking lot. In the second one, we'd have a real problem because we have abatement issues to deal with and fire code issues. So we would have a problem.
So, okay, so as I understand it, these two things really were in your own purview that you could have gone forward with.
Yes.
But since you brought it to us, we have the ability to discuss it and we have the ability to deny it.
You do.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, but aren't these already finished?
Yes, the projects are in closeout.
Right.
So when it came up, the board actually it was this summer, and you guys were, well, two of you were not having meetings. So we have to do the work has to commence, and that's why I noted in the agenda item that both projects were in closeout, which means that the work is in fact done.
And so if the work is done, then the impact of us saying, no, we don't approve is what? Well, if you, Ms. Miller, if you were getting all the votes on the majority of the board right now, what do you foresee? What would that do if we were to vote this?
Well, I think like what Steve said and Tim said was they wouldn't get paid. My point being that it's already been done. I mean, we're getting it in January.
Okay, so
and
again,
it was done back in summer.
So the effect, though, of us saying no now means somebody wouldn't get paid?
Correct. But my point being is that we need to have a consistency and a process put in place.
Okay. I'm going to move forward. Are there any other discussions? I think we've covered that piece. No? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Miller?
No.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Cooley?
Yes.
Ms. Varda?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, board, for your patience with me as I figure some of these processes out as we move forward. So we're now going to move on to, let me make sure I'm in the right spot. Yep, there we are. Public comment number 2. The same guidelines as were read out before will apply here. I won't read through them, but just please make sure that your comments are appropriate in case a kindergartner is watching. And don't use the names of any kids that are not your own. That'd be awesome. We're going to begin with our in-person speakers, and we will start with Jen Withy. I always want to do the Price is Right thing, but I won't do it. Sorry. Okay. It gets late and, come on down. All right, Ms. Withy, whenever you're ready.
Oh, except I messed this up. Okay. Jen Withy in Lakewood. Good afternoon, Board of Education and Ms. Nicothodes. My name is Jen Withy, and I'm the proud principal at Fitzmaurice Elementary in Arvada. Fitzmaurice is an incredible school with a truly amazing community. And while I could talk on end about all the great things at our school, tonight I want to speak with you about some significant challenges that we face as a small neighborhood school and the direct impact that has on our students. And the two topics I want to discuss is consistency of instruction and deep collaboration. One of the hardships we have faced at Fitzmaurice as enrollment has declined is the need to have split grade level classrooms. What we know as educators, and I believe deeply, is that students need to be engaged in rigorous learning connected to grade level standards each and every day. Even with the most masterful educator in the classroom, the learning model in a split level classroom hinders students' daily engagement in grade level standard work. And we have students that spend multiple years in mixed grade level classrooms. Just this September, due to enrollment, we had to lose a licensed teacher, meaning that we have 5 teachers, K-5 for 6 grade levels. As we navigated this change, it was imperative to us that we ensure all students were receiving rigorous grade level core instruction, which is one of our major improvement strategies. Ultimately, to make this happen, we created 2 split level classrooms and have 3 licensed staff members now wearing 2 hats, like digital teacher librarian, that is also the 2nd grade math teacher, because that's what our students deserve, to have quality core instruction in front of them at all times. At Fitzmaurice, one of the ways we have sought to improve our instructional practice and best meet the needs of our students is through data-driven instruction meetings. This is the time where educators deepen their understanding of standards, analyze assessments, identify student gaps, and plan for reteach. While our staff is engaging in these conversations with myself and our instructional coach, they don't have grade level teammates. They're not able to collaborate in a truly authentic way with another educator that is teaching the same new resource in the same time frame, and then look at that data and say, what did you do? What did I do? How did we get the results? And in my experience in working with teams that have that opportunity, it truly has a direct impact on our student outcomes. And our teachers are all in. They are doing the work. They are living it, and students first all the time. But they're having to do that on their own with the support of the support staff in the building. So when I consider my role as a leader of our community, I'm consistently thinking about all stakeholders that we serve, and I'm consistently thinking about equity. Our school is an incredible place, doing amazing things for kids, and the hardship that I've spoken to and that others will speak to tonight, really, it causes me worry to think about the equitable learning experiences that our students are receiving compared to neighborhood schools that might be larger and have different opportunities for students. So I would like to invite the board to consider the implications for equity at our smaller schools and start the conversation now versus later. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Withy. Next up, we have Christine Wiggins. Good evening, Ms. Wiggins, and whenever you'd like.
Hi, my name is Christine Wiggins. I live in Arvada, and I'm a parent in Jeffco. I'm here to talk to you about the problem Jeffco has created with our small schools. As someone who works in education, I know most schools are filled with great teachers. So one of the most important things to me was to have a school we could walk to with staff who are happy. And I found that in Fitzmaurice. When it was time to enroll my son Zane in kindergarten 2 years ago, I didn't go shopping for schools. The only thing we needed was aftercare. When I envisioned Zane starting school, I never imagined it would be amidst a global pandemic. I guess I also never imagined a global pandemic. Last year, he started kindergarten remotely. His teacher was spectacular and worked to meet with his individual needs online. But it was no comparison for being in person. My son was often angry and isolated, and it wasn't until he started school this year he returned to the happy, funny kid who loves to tell jokes and play hide and seek. And then I realized how miserable he must have been. He has loved his class at Fitz, dancing in music class, playing on the playground, the STEM lab, and being with his classmates. But the one thing that we needed is also the one thing that Fitzmaurice does not have. We are a family with 2 working parents. We cannot survive without aftercare. With a smaller student population, the school cannot sustain a cost-effective program for families. The principal really tried. She found 2 providers. She surveyed families numerous times, and each time it didn't add up. Fitz couldn't get a program going, so on December 16th, I cried and I submitted a transfer form. I never wanted to move my happy child away from his friends, from his very experienced, knowledgeable teacher, and to a school that we couldn't walk to. But after looking at schools, there was no denying that a larger school not only had at before and after care, but they had more opportunities for kids, clubs for students to attend, and more staff. Student has starved Fitz families of not only just before and after care, but educational experiences. It feels like I failed our neighborhood school when the reality is the district is forcing the school to fail my family and our community, denying students opportunities that others in the district just a mile or 2 away have. According to Jeffco School Finder, there are 4 elementary schools within 1 mile of my house, 7 within 1.5 miles. Census data shows that although the population of Jeffco has increased, the number of students has decreased. The issue of declining enrollment is not a new one. It was not a new one for Allendale nor Pleasant View. The fear of closing a neighborhood school is one that I think at least one board member here knows the feeling of, but that fear is leading us to a more dangerous path, doing nothing. And nothing is harming our students, our families, and leaving our school employees exhausted and terrified. After the heartbreak of moving schools mid-year and lots of tears shed, I'm really demanding that you do something. Unshelve the 2019 MGT report, create a task force with some decision-making power, made of families and staff of students with less than 200 kids, and let them chart the course for the future of our small schools. Then apply the solution equitably to our communities. But one thing is abundantly clear, just ignoring the problem won't make it go away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wiggins. Next up, Sarah Branstetter. Did I say that correctly? Branstetter. Okay, great. Welcome.
Good evening to all of you. Thank you, Jeffco School Board members and our superintendent, for choosing this level of leadership in education right now. We're in an era none of us expected 2 years ago, and yet you've chosen to guide us using your collective tools, and I'm grateful for you. I am here tonight asking you to hear the urgency I have about engaging in an important conversation. We need to talk about the sustainability of our smallest schools in Jeffco. My name is Sarah Branstetter. I am a Jeffco resident, the proud mom of 2 Jeffco students, and the instructional coach at Fitzmaurice Elementary. All of the professionals at Fitzmaurice, both licensed and classified, have chosen to be a part of the Fitz family. If you ask any person who works in this small Arvada school, all will tell you that we are a part of a community because we believe in its greatness, we believe in each other and our students. Likewise, if you ask any person who works at Fitzmaurice, all will tell you our work is uniquely difficult. We are at a tipping point of not just being a small school, but being a school that is too small to have the means to reach our community's needs. Our teachers need a better opportunity to collaborate about grade level core instruction and meeting the diverse needs of our students. We can't reach the depth our students deserve, and our educators are capable of going when there simply aren't enough of us for those necessary conversations. Our students deserve more grade level peers for diversity in thought and relationships. All of the people in our building need to be able to focus on the areas of strength that they have and the jobs they've been hired to do, rather than being pulled to fill positions that aren't filled. We know hard decisions need to be made about the viability of schools with the lowest enrollment in Jeffco. What I am asking is these decisions are treated with urgency for all stakeholders. In the last 21 years of being a Jeffco teacher and instructional leader, I have had the opportunity to be in literally hundreds of classrooms and work with outstanding school leaders. From my vantage point, I guarantee Fitzmaurice is filled with some of the strongest professionals I have ever worked alongside. We know we're on your radar, and our staff, students, and families need you to have a laser-like focus right now about what comes next for schools like ours. If the most responsible decision you have to make as a board and as a district includes consolidating schools, please do it in a transparent way and allow all of us the opportunity to make the right personal and professional choices for ourselves. Before open enrollment is closed and positions our fit staff is best qualified to serve are filled, please invite us to be a part of this urgent process. Thank you for hearing this invitation. And again, I am grateful for you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Branstetter. We have one more in-person public commenter, Stephanie Dill. Welcome, Ms. Dill. They're virtual.
Oh goodness, now I've made the mess of this.
Welcome whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, Jeffco Board members and Superintendent Dorland and Ms. Nicol-Fotis. I'm Stephanie Dill, a special education learning specialist at Fitzmaurice Elementary. As a staff, we were notified this week of conversations happening around the sustainability of small schools, which Fitzmaurice is a part of. I live and work within the reality of small schools. While there are positives and negatives to every situation, it comes down to the impact on our students and community and what it means for their future. I truly enjoy working with the students, community, and staff at Fitzmaurice. However, I am also very concerned for our students and the impact of being at a small schools community. The adults at Fitzmaurice are very student-centered and skilled teachers, yet there are obstacles created by being a small school that are out of our control. Fitzmaurice is fortunate to have an autism spectrum disorder center-based program for both primary and intermediate level students. We work to include those students within every level in our building. However, when including our students from the center-based program and the number of school-based students with disabilities on IEPs, this leads to reverse integration in many of our classrooms. This goes against the intent of integration and best practices. Being a small school also leads to a lower level of diversity of peer interaction. By having only one class per grade level, the same students are together year after year. This also means we are not able to separate students who may have more impacting academic, social, emotional, or behavioral needs. As stated before, our teachers are very student-centered and skilled, yet having the ability to provide diverse interactions and pairing our personality characteristics is an obstacle we face. As a staff, we have been asking about the sustainability of our small school for a while, and we know the reality right now is the district is talking and gathering data, that a decision has not been made as to the future of Fitz. We want what is best for our students and community. I speak for myself, and I feel that my colleagues would agree that if the decision is made to close Fitzmaurice, this needs to happen in a timely manner, so we can have the opportunity to support our students and community with this transition. I'd like to leave you with a vision statement that we say every morning as a community. At Fitzmaurice, we grow through grit, leadership, empowerment, and wonder. We will continue to grow, and now and in the future, wherever that may take us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dill. We'll be moving into our last two public commenters who will both be virtual, and we will start with Abby McAdams. Abby, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. The floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Abby McAdams, and I'm a 2020 graduate of Wheat Ridge High School. As Jefferson County Public Schools Board of Education, your mission is to provide a quality education that prepares all children for a successful future. And I would argue that it is a disservice to commit to adequately preparing students for the future and not prepare students to make it through the day without having to choose between class time and taking care of bodily functions. 1 in 4 high school menstruators have missed a significant amount of school due to their period and lack of period products. To any of you menstruators here today, that's probably not surprising, but what hopefully will surprise you all is that 51% of students feel like their school does not care about them if they do not provide free period products in the bathrooms. So when the average cost of a box of pads is $4.49, and for tampons it's $5.99, it's a little less surprising. Those costs may not seem exorbitant, but they are indeed debilitating, as 1 in 3 menstruators have struggled to afford menstrual products during the pandemic. 76% of students think we are taught more about the biology of frogs than the biology of the human female body. And if our district-wide educational curriculum is not teaching extensive knowledge of the menstrual cycle and periods, stigma and shame are bound to persist. Now, destigmatizing menstruation is much more complex than reshaping the nature of health curriculum, but when students walk into their restrooms and are expected to pay for public hygiene products, we can not only expect to get further and further from a community culture where that stigma isn't present, but we can also expect to not prepare all children for a successful future. If the board's mission is just that, why have we as a district failed to protect students and their dignity? We do not ask students to pay for toilet paper. We do not ask students to pay for hand soap, yet we ask them to pay for pads and tampons at a district-wide level. I hope that today I am able to convey the severity of implications that are caused by keeping pads and tampons out of school restrooms. After all, 23% of students believe that returning to in-person school will make obtaining menstrual products easier. Are we going to let them down? I understand that the current state of the pandemic and opening schools occupies a large part of your agenda right now, but I urge you, amidst your much appreciated hard work to bring students safely back to in-person school, please consider what type of schools are we bringing them back to. I appreciate you all listening to the simple commitment available to you all that would increase equitable access to education for menstruators as they return to in-person school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McAdams. And now we move on to who I believe is our last public comment, Robert Greenawalt. Can you hear us, Mr. Greenawalt?
I can. Can you hear
The
me?
Royal Us. Yes, I can. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk about the repeated and egregious acts of deception and uncontrolled spending surrounding the Capital Improvement Program and the Myers Pool IGA. Let's start with the bond program. At the board's October study session, Reed's presentation stated the program had $88 million in unallocated contingency. By the December CAC meeting, that number was down to $69 million. And that number is not even close to being accurate, as Reed didn't remove the $3.5 million revenue shortfall from the Myers Pool fiasco, and he didn't include the expected $43 million in inflationary costs for the next 3 years. That leaves less than $23 million from the original $118 million in bond premium. That's not even enough for the Fletcher Miller replacement that was removed from the original program. No one should think this is okay. It's not. It's indicative of mismanagement, weak leadership, and deception. 2 months after the Moss Adams report, and seemingly none of the recommendations have been implemented, and nothing has changed. It's actually gotten worse. But where did that $19 million in contingency go? For starters, somehow Tim forgot to tell you at the meeting last month that he also added another $400,000 in FF&E with $0 budget to Ralston Valley, making the real overage at Ralston Valley $1 million, not the $600,000 that you were told. Oops. There's also an additional $1.6 million in overage or new FF&E projects that have been added in the last 2 months. Who's approving these additions and overages? But the real kicker is a new $14.6 million network upgrades project with $0 original budget has been added to the program. This is the same $14.6 million that Reed showed the board in October as a potential use of the unallocated contingency. Now, 2 months later, it stealthily and deceptively shows up on the CAC report as a project labeled as directed by the board. Did you approve that? Did you approve of the new FF&E projects? Were you aware of the massive FF&E overages, or even that the true amount of unallocated contingency is now running dangerously low. This is why Reed can't be trusted. Maybe he's just trying to rush these projects in before the superintendent eventually implements her 30-day plans on the Moss Adams recommendations. Speaking of lack of trust, we can go back to last month's meeting. You remember, right? You were repeatedly and emphatically told that Jeffco would own 50% of the new Myers pool. But you know what? That is flat out false. The IGA very clearly states that Arvada owns the facility. But why were you told that? Was it done to influence your vote to approve the financing? How is that even ethical and defensible? Enough is enough. It's time for the deception, mismanagement, and lack of government in Jeffco schools to end. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That concludes our public comment for this evening. We're going to be moving on to our final agenda item of the evening, which is where we have an opportunity to go through our board work calendar with Ms. Neal, who has joined us regarding our upcoming meetings, and to have a discussion, if the board so chooses, around items that we would like to see elevated as we move along. Ms. Neal.
Thank you. Next Wednesday's study session begins at 3 p.m. You'll have a start time task force update for an hour. Then at 4, you'll receive the annual comprehensive financial report and the external audit with auditors present for half an hour. You move then to a legislative update with our lobbyist Ed Bowditch for half an hour. The session starts that Wednesday as well. Then at 5 o'clock, you will be working with Glennon Norwell, who you worked with at the board retreat in December, continuing the work looking at development of the vision, values, and mission towards a strategic plan. So that goes from 3 to 6:30. You have another meeting the 26th of January, special meeting, 4 to 5 p.m. to review a revised budget for the current school year. Then your next regular meeting, February 3rd, you will begin at 5 o'clock with a literacy dialogue in study session. You have honors and recognition. So far, we have one young music educator, outstanding music educator coming for recognition. Presentations that are tentatively scheduled now is another COVID update. Start time presentation, the Johns Hopkins assessment, and that is at this point looking out a month for your regular meeting. Then you have a retreat all day Saturday, February 5th, beginning at 9:30, going to 3:30. That would continue the work that you begin next Wednesday.
Great, thank you, Ms. Neal. So board members, as we go through and look, and obviously this is for the sort of next shorter term agenda build out, Ms. Neal is also consistently kind of tracking conversations and areas where we as a board want to put sort of placeholders, the pending topics that are up at the top, that the next agenda setting or agenda prep is on January 19th. Ms. Miller and I will be attending that. But if there are other items that that as board members you want to make sure are either in that live pool at the top or that we have discussion around to see if there's consensus of interest, this is an opportunity to do so. One of the things I'll mention, and then we can go around, is there has been interest, and I don't know if Ms. Neal, you'd like to talk about the League of Women Voters opportunity.
Yes. So February 23rd at 6:30 for an hour and a half. They are interested in having a dialogue with the community online, and they would like board representation there, engagement with board members. I believe the board president has spoken with each of you about that opportunity. So if you know 2 members who might be interested in attending, I know that the league was hoping that maybe one new board member and one continuing board member, just for a variety of perspectives, would attend.
Do folks have interest in participating? So February 23rd, 6:30 p.m., an hour and a half. And again, this is an opportunity to engage with our community. I don't have to sell it because Ms. Reed's hands is up. So it sounds like Ms. Miller and Ms. Reed can represent the board, if that works for everyone else.
Perfect. I'll get
Wonderful.
you the details.
Thank you.
Also, I
colleagues.
just wanted to point
6:30 on the 23rd.
I wanted to point out that following up on your conversation in executive session, Superintendent Dorland had mentioned you have an upcoming topic, and that would be perhaps at this point scheduled for the 12th of February, but that's not necessarily on the list that you're seeing today. But it will be discussed in agenda prep with Ms. Schooley and Ms. Miller.
Can you remind me what you're talking about?
Yes, the executive session on legal advice, the EEOC matter.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're saying that would be on February 12th?
At this point, we're tentatively holding time.
Okay, well, it sounds like we will need maybe to check and see what schedules look like for a board quorum to make sure that we can be there. Okay. Board members, and I don't know if Ms. Parker, if you were reaching for the mic, go ahead.
Yes, I had a couple of things for the pending topics, especially after tonight, if we could put on small schools so we could talk about them in the future. And then something else, I don't know if we have discussion by topic or.
Yeah, and why don't we do that real quick just to make sure. So there is a placeholder for learning environment, small schools / consolidation, because this has come up from the board table, says here January in 2020, and then January, February, March, April in 2021. So perhaps, is there interest from other board members in elevating that with more of a sense of urgency in terms of the timing of that conversation?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Nicodemus, did you want to contribute some info?
I was just thinking about a reasonable timeline based on some of the public comment this evening, if you wanted to consider something in February for a revisit to this topic, or.
I'm wondering, there's urgency and then there's urgency. So why don't we move this conversation, just the timing of it, so it sounds like there's consensus that there is a will to move forward and expedite that up to the top of the list. And so why don't I work with you, Ms. Neal, and see how that should play out in terms of the exact place that it fits in. Would that be comfortable for folks? Okay.
I just had one other topic that I would like to add to the pending, and that's school safety.
Do you have anything specific that you'd like to just talk to the board so we can see what the interest is?
Yeah, this came up when we had, I guess it was in December, early December, and there was the kid who brought I guess it was a BB gun, but for a while we didn't know, and there was quite a bit of turmoil there. And then, of course, we have actual school shootings. And so just the topic, I think, of school safety is something that I'm interested in.
So you're talking about more of an update around systems, processes, where we're at, kind of having a check-in?
I know that we've had discussions in executive session on school safety because it wouldn't be something we would necessarily discuss in public. I also know that we are scheduling meetings with each board member with cabinet members and Mr. Bell, who oversees the Safety and Security Office. That would be one area that would be discussed in that time frame as well. So are you looking for a...
Yeah, I would like a more community involvement one if we can. I appreciate having the executive sessions, but I could even think of including suicide prevention. There are a lot of presentations available that we could make known to the community. Safe gun storage. We have a law now in Colorado that you must lock up your guns. So I would like to do something that we could engage the community in.
So I'm wondering if this is similar to the presentation that we had where it was sort of school safety and some of those measures. We talked about restorative justice or restorative practices. And I can't remember which iteration of the board that was with, but with the sort of full gamut of what is this comprehensive picture around various strategies for school and student safety well-being, where it was sort of a broader conversation around that. I don't know if that takes it too far away from what you are specifically asking for, or I just bring that up because I thought that was an effective way to talk about it from a more comprehensive kind of perspective. But I don't know if that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, I mentioned the 2 specific topics I have, but I'm certainly open to additional ones.
Also in December, the TikTok challenge that got all the kids to stay home. I know in the middle school in my neighborhood, we had 200 kids stay home that day. It's not inconsequential that these things are happening, and I think it's important that we elevate the conversation. Who knows when that will happen again or other real events. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I certainly did. My intention was not to dismiss the topic. It was just to try to figure out what part of it, like who we should bring in terms of the focus, so that we can make sure we all know what we're talking about. So it sounds like is there a consensus? We can put that on the agenda. We're going in for the agenda prep. I think we can kind of look and see once again how that fits in and build out. Mm-hmm.
But one thing I noticed during that time, and I learn about this topic a lot from Ms. Parker. It's a passion of hers, but there's some best practices that other districts around the country are really putting in place around this area of school shooting and school safety. We could learn a lot from that too. I just wonder if there's ways to get more information on those kinds of best practices, things that give us ways to think about solutions. I don't know if that's possible.
I've made notes.
Other stuff?
I'd really love to elevate a conversation, especially in light of some of the presentations from JCA around teacher time or staff time, and the possibility of giving time back soon to our teachers in the form of non-contact days or late starts. I just would like to explore some of our options for supporting our staff and teachers around that concept. And I would put this as very urgent, a discussion that we would need to think about and how to implement soon because the semester is already underway.
Sorry, did you miss?
I just want to say, so you're suggesting for this semester a discussion around?
Yes.
Okay.
I think one of the conversations, and I'd love to hear from you all about your interest in this as well, one of the conversations or possibilities as a more interim step, if there's consensus, is to ask the superintendent or their interim person in the seat to create some scenarios, some options that we can then look at as a board to say, what could this look like? Because we don't know, but rather than waiting for building out an agenda, since if your interest is in this semester, to ask the superintendent to do some of that work and bring it to us as a board so that we can then see where that dialogue goes. But if that would satisfy your...
Yeah, and I have talked to Superintendent Dorland about this, and she did start to offer suggestions like late start, which is how that idea came to mind, and a suggestion that we do see if there is consensus around the board table to have that conversation. So yeah, I'd be happy to request that and see if there are options we could consider.
Yes, there are options we can consider, so we can easily put that together for you.
Thank you.
So I'd love to hear from other board members to make sure that we at least have the consensus to be able to move forward, since it's asking the superintendent to do some stuff.
I think this is critical, and I think it's very urgent.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reed.
I agree.
Thank you, Ms. Parker.
I just want to make sure that the conversation stays focused on time for kids in school as well, since we know that they've been out of school and disrupted for now 3 years. And so part of the contract from last year was to have a couple more contact days put in so that we could try, that's not going to solve all of the challenge, certainly, of learning losses. But my concern is that the less time they have in contact with their teachers and in school is a concern to me, especially when we consider now with the Omicron that's flowing quickly through all of our lives. So with that lens in mind, because late start dates impact families, they impact students, and our kids have been impacted greatly, as our staff has been impacted, and our principals and our parents. So and all of you. So I want to be cognizant that we keep it centered on our children first and foremost, with the effort that we take care of our staff as well.
So it sounds like we have consensus to move forward, so we can, or if the superintendent is watching, to move forward with essentially, it sounds like, that it lies with other things, sort of a pro-con, not maybe oversimplifying the making too binary the options, but to be able to evaluate some of the benefits. And I think to talk about with other topics tonight, what will be the most impactful way if the concern is around sort of respecting the time for educators and staff. What is the most impactful way to do that, and what is the way to make it the least impactful? And I mean that in the best way, but for students to impact their learning. So we'll move forward with that.
Yeah, well, we bring forward, we'll make sure there's analysis of some of those features so that you can really see what the impacts would look like.
Yeah. So fiscal, student learning, all those things. That'd be great. Other stuff, content, topics that folks want to make sure that we have either, again, in the live pool or that we can discuss for superintendent action?
This may already be on the agenda, Helen, and I don't have the magic little list that you have. No, it's okay. I don't need any more paper. Just we had, Dr. Aquino, we've had for the academic work, we've had the Moss Adams work, and we had the financial work. And I know we're going to be talking about the finances, I think in
February.
February, right. I just want to keep on that agenda as that we're supposed to be kind of tracking those three projects or those three items. And then also ESSER, making sure that we're checking in on a quarterly basis to figure out how those dollars are being spent. I know, Dr. Leach, you said that you would be having those kinds of reports. I just want to make sure that they are feeding into our schedule so that we are being faithful about those quarterly checkups and making sure that the dollars are being spent the way we need to, or tweaking it as we see fit. And then the academics, and then Moss Adams.
I know that ESSER 3 funding is listed up on this list here, as well as the facility master plan and those pieces. I think that's all part of that coming in the coming months.
Okay, great. Then if it's already there, then I don't need to bother.
Yeah, it's sort of burrito tucked into something else that's on here, but I think it's good to just name it.
Okay.
And it helps our community to understand too how we'll be focusing that time. So.
Okay, great.
Yep. Any other suggestions, questions, thoughts, things that we need to attend to before we are released into the world? Hearing none, it is now, I don't think I even have to do this, but it's 9:12 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much for your time. Please drive safely getting home.
We can see the world through open eyes and savor all the time before it flies. And every time you wake up, there's a new day that's calling out your name. Come join the game. Well, that's life. Take what comes along the way. That's love. Let it grow stronger every day. There's joy. As the days go passing by, there's hope. A better life for you and I. Take our dreams and fly. Together we can try. That's life. Well, some things in this world were meant to be, like living life in peace and harmony. So follow where the road will lead you. Hand in hand we'll make our dreams come true. Enjoy the view. Oh, that's life. Take what comes along the way. That's love. feel so alive. Yeah, I'm happy head to toe. I'm in overdrive. Well, alright.